I'm gonna do a complete rundown of all the episodes from the TV show Lost, ranked from worst to best. These are my highly subjective opinions, and I'll mention why I've placed them the way that I have. Give my thoughts and analysis. Maybe you'll learn something and see things a little bit differently. For consistency, I've fused the two-parters. For instance, There's No Place Like Home, which has a part 1 and a double-parter finale, is considered as one episode in my rundown. Some episodes will have much more reflection by me, especially those that might get a controversial ranking. A ranking that is a little bit different from the classic IMDb ranking. I will also mention my favorite scene from every single episode. Let's start at the bottom. 111th, What Kate Does. Easily my least favorite episode of Lost. I already have a video dedicated to it, which details all my worries about season 6 and how What Kate Does enhances those feelings. My worries about the flash sideways and whether or not it can attract the attention of the regular audience. And look at the ratings were at the lowest point in Lost for season 6. And the island has lost all of its magic, with the lighting looking too bright and without any of the saturation and dark colors of the previous seasons. Even the temple looked off compared to other structures on the island, and the people at the temple weren't that exciting, even though they had two amazing actors in the mix. The Flash Sideways story, which I thought was fairly interesting in the season 6 premiere, LAX, is just a simple Kate-centric that mirrors her past life, and since we don't really know what this Flash Sideways universe is, we're just feeling so detached from the story. The Flash Sideways weren't that interesting until Happily Ever After later in the season. And the story around Zombie Saeed and the Green Pill, as well as Kate going after Sawyer, those stories were not exciting to me. Even the barracks look drab and uninteresting compared to how they looked before. The best scene? One contender is the amazing acting by Josh Holloway at the dock, but I would like to mention the other one, when Kate opens up the bag and pulls out the orca. It has a new theme by Michael Giacchino which mimics the Bernard Herrmann themes from Psycho, and it's also a hint that this reality is not an alternate timeline because this is a toy that belongs in the Kate household. Claire never brought this to the island. It doesn't belong to Claire, it belongs to Kate. Therefore, we can interpret this scene as something that Kate conjures up in that moment. The orca didn't exist until Kate stole the bag from Claire and opened it. 110. The Package. The next one on the list is in the same vein as What Kate Does. The Package is slightly more tolerable, with the Flash Sideways story having a bit more gravitas, completing what we witnessed in Sundown, and there's some highlights in the island story. Jin's introduction to Hydra Island, Room 23 and Widmore is a little bit more interesting, even though it's undercut with Zoe. The son not speaking English subplot might be the worst one in the entire show. The best scene is Jin finally seeing pictures of Ji-yeon. That was very nice. 109. The Other Woman. The Other Woman is a weird one, since on paper it sounds like a towering episode. On-island flashbacks with Juliet, detailing the time on the island with the others, that covers some missing pieces. Some dead others also appear, like Goodwin and Tom, and it also has an on-island story where we explore a brand new Dharma station. Yet it's so clunkily written, setting up things we are not sure will be resolved. The mysterious nature of Harper and her instructions, Ben's obsession with Juliet, the cliched hacker at the computer and the countdown timer. It's all a bit silly. Additionally, the whole thing about the Tempest should be handled with much more seriousness. A toxic gas that can kill everyone on the island is such a horrendous situation. It sounds like something that should happen in a series finale or a season finale, and it's handled here as if this was a Saturday morning supervillain cartoon. One of the reasons why it has such a low ranking for me is that this is an episode that has a lot of potential. It has a lot of ingredients that could work splendidly. A complete rewrite could make this story and her background so much more interesting. The best scene is Locke and Ben watching the Red Sox tape, revealing that it is Widmore who owns the freighter park outside the island.
This is Charles Widmore. This is the man whose boat is parked offshore. This is the man that's been trying to find the island.
108, The Lie. The more I rewatch this episode, the less I like it. Out of the Time Flashes episodes, this is the one that takes the longest break, with the character struggling to get a fire going, or at least until the flaming arrows attack, and things become chaotic, leading to the deaths of 17 people. Remember when Scott died in season 1? Or even Nicky and Paolo getting their own funeral?
Rest in peace, Nicky and Paolo.
That time is gone. And even characters who weren't buried, like Arzt or Charlie, got some moments where the characters mourned their deaths. The death of Arzt happened while the characters had to hurry to get the dynamite to the hatch, yet the show still gave us some time to let that death sink in.
Hey. It was an accident.
In The Lie, we get the biggest massacre amongst the camp. 17 people died. Additionally, this happens halfway into the episode, so it's not like there wasn't time to have a scene like the post-Arzt death scene, where our characters are mourning and dealing with the loss of 17 lives. Compared to the weight of the murder of so many others in previous seasons, this one sticks out, and not positively. Obviously, the writers need to do something with the rest of the castaways, because it was going to be tricky to have them around for stuff like the Outrigger chase, the trek to the arcade. What do we do with the characters there? Do we let them stay at the beach? But maybe integrating them with the 1970s others would have been a better idea. As much as it shocks us, and that Frogurt dying by a flaming arrow is hilarious, the massacre is one of the things that I think the writers fumbled the most, especially since Lost has always been so character driven and actually treated its background cast as more than just simple cannon fodder. The flash forwards are fun, although they are hectic, way too hectic, and they also undermine Jack's downfall. His alcoholic character being so suicidal 2 days prior to this in the amazing Through the Looking Glass. I mean, he was so totally broken, who's now just back at being an action hero. This is just 48 hours later. The ending of this episode was amazing though. The best scene, without a doubt, the ending in the lamppost and the revelation that Miss Hawking is operating it. 107, Adrift. Adrift drags out the story on the ocean. It realistically depicts the turmoil and how tricky it is out at sea. It is not as engaging though. I admire that the show could show the terror of being out at sea, with no land at sight, and the uncertainty of what happened to Jin. However, in the broader picture, it bores. It's not an episode that has gained much on rewatches, with the exception of the nice tie-in with the shark and Hydra Island. And did you know that this was originally going to be a Sawyer-centric episode? They even filmed the flashbacks for it, but it was completely scrapped. The flashbacks included Gordy, which showed up in the episode The Long Con, and this episode would deal with the Tampa job Sawyer mentioned in the previous season. It was scrapped because the flashbacks were so horrendously bad. So upon viewing the dailies, they had to do something, and they completely changed it to a Michael story. I think they managed it okay, but Michael's story is just a continuation of what we saw in Special, and most of this we already knew or had inferred from before. So they don't add much to our understanding of Michael at all. They also had Malcolm David Kelly present during the episode prior to this. There was definitely room to see things from his point of view. Considering that this is now a Michael-centric episode with a world focus, wouldn't it be amazing to continue the kidnapping? Maybe seeing the mysterious boat docked someplace. We don't know where they are since it's so dark. You can still keep the others as mysterious people. You could get away with just having the stunt doubles and extras. The fans would be excited nonetheless. All of the others are shown in bits and pieces. Maybe show Walt trying to escape or falling into the water, which would have caused that dripping Walt sequence during that same point in time. A lot of fans felt like Walt got written out too quickly, and I understand that he grew up. But since they had him in Hawaii at this point in time, I think his perspective would be quite cool. We also see a Dharma logo for the first time in this episode, so having it here as well as on the shark and in the swan could really heighten up the excitement for this episode, which drags a lot at sea. The story in The Swan is interesting, connecting it well with Man of Science, Man of Faith, the uneasiness down there, Kate's discovery of the pantry. That is a nice scene, especially when she eats the chocolate. And even though it ends in the same place as the previous episode, it makes up for it with a marvelous cliffhanger. All in all, it's not so interesting and is the lowest rated season 2 episode for me. The best scene being the cliffhanger ending. Just hearing the yelling of Jin, we have no idea what he's saying, but it looks like he's been captured, and then we see the others. 106, Left Behind. Now this one might surprise you, most people find this episode enjoyable, but even on my first watch, I was a little bit disappointed. I had high expectations, seeing as this episode would continue from the barracks adventure in The Man from Tallahassee. But just like Adrift, it drags, serving as the middle point between the invasion of the barracks and the exploration of Juliet's backstory. This one could be an interesting female-centric story between Kate and Juliet, but they still have to reiterate the male aspect with a love triangle or quadrangle by now, with Juliet saying that Kate broke Jack's heart. I'm not really a fan of bringing that up.
So what'd you do to piss him off?
Well, I don't know, Kate, how about saving your life? I think this could have been a stronger female-centric episode if they also included Danielle in the mix, who simply just vanished from this expedition. I had to roll my eyes on them falling in the mud too. That was just too silly for Lost. There's a potential of an eminent female duo here, but it's not as strong as I hoped. And I also had issues with how they woke up from the gas a day prior to Jack and Saeed. Was the gas selective on when to wake up the characters? So now I wonder if it would be better if we skipped the beach camp B-plot and instead have a B-plot of Jack and Saeed at the barracks instead, exploring the place. As for the B-plot, it's fun and simple, but a little bit forgettable. It's a nice foreshadowing to Hurley's influence, and you could make ties to the role of protector. And the flashbacks, they are fine, but I think the situation is a little bit forced. Kate opened up so easily to her. I understand that we need to establish a connection between Kate and Cassidy, and I think they work well, but I think it could have been done better. I appreciate the camaraderie, and I think they worked great together later in the episode, but I think it should have been written a little bit differently. This episode is the basis of a future friendship in the flash forwards, and it also ties up one loose end from season 1.
Swear to God, Katie, if I ever see you again, the first thing I will do is yell for help.
The best scene is the monster and the Sonic fans, and even the best scene is one that creates problems because the fans kept saying, well, why didn't it fly above the fans? So even the best scene has created issues for the fans. 105. He's Our You. This used to be my least favorite episode of season 5, but I have bumped it up a little bit with more reflection. My main problem is the downfall of Saeed, and that he once was such a complicated character, a logical thinker with impressive intuition and strategic mindset. It's tied to the phrase Flanderization, where one trait has been so exaggerated that it's become their entire personality. That is highlighted here, with Saeed being a torturer. There's some small things that could have been improved this episode. For instance, show young Saeed fiddling with a broken down radio before he kills the chicken, showing how he developed the killer instinct while he was much more interested in electronics. Or make his assassinations more clever, where he uses his strategic thinking and knowledge to lure people in traps. This is what he always did on the island. I feel like the Saeed we see here is so one-sided. I understand the idea of having him so lost now that he's back on the island, but I think it could have been handled better. I also think this could have been a good place to return to Hydra Island and Room 23, having Oldham work there instead of being in a hut. Sometimes the Dharma Initiative is leaning way too much into the hippie mentality. Most of us want to see them being scientists. The cliffhanger ending is prominent, but it loses a little bit of impact seeing as it didn't work. Also that the gunshot wound switched side by the next episode. The best scene? Well, I'm not sure actually. I could highlight the scenes with Ben, Saeed and Roger Linus. The portrayal of abuse was pretty raw, and Sterling, who played young Ben, he did a fabulous job. Great young actor. 104. The Last Recruit. The Last Recruit is a plot-driven episode, and sometimes they worked incredibly well. This one is a bit dull. Lost is best when it's a character-driven story, and this one has a lot of them, both on the island and in the Flash sideways, but I don't think any of them are bringing their A game tonight. It's not that engrossing. A lot of movements from A to B. This happens and then this happens and then this happens. I also think the lighting is a bit flat, the vibrance of the previous seasons is gone, and it has a lot of cliche lines.
Here we go.
With an embarrassing line from Frank.
Looks like someone got their voice back.
The best scene is probably this one at the start of the episode, which is framed kind of like the very important conversation from the episode White Rabbit, but this time it's not Locke, it's a Man in Black Locke. And there's a very important discussion here that ties in Christian Shephard, and then you also have the continuation of this small talk which ends with Claire, and that's a nice ending to that scene. 103. The Whole Truth. The flashbacks are fine, building up the story with Jay Lee, but I found both his introduction in Unfound and the continued story in The Glass Ballerina much stronger. This simply is a flashback story that ties in a hole in their timeline. The on-island story is also a little bit beautiful, and Sun Jin stories always have a lot of heart, even though they are often not plot-driven, and that's okay. The highlight in the episode being the power play between the characters in the Swan as well as the trek to the balloon. This is a commanding episode for Ana Lucia. She's a proactive member of the community, and her scenes with Saeed are golden. Charlie provides a comic relief, just like he did in the pilot trek, and it works. The best scene here, yet another one where the ending is the best.
And then they'd use them to trade for me. I guess it's a good thing I'm not one of them, huh? You guys got any milk?
102. Born to Run. I will begin with the best scene, which is also the best scene in the flashbacks, and the first scene of the episode, the Psycho homage in the beginning. Michael Giacchino paying tribute to composer Bernard Herrmann by creating Kate's Motel, a reference to Bates Motel from Psycho. And the whole sequence, which doesn't need narrating, tells everything visually, shot by shot, referencing Marion Crane in her hotel room in that iconic horror film. The rest of the episode, it's okay. Kate's story with that plane is not as engaging, and even though it's kind of resolved by now, we still needed a little bit more in the finale. As for the flashbacks, I think Left Behind has some stellar Kate flashbacks, but it is lower on the list because of the rest of the episode, while Born to Run has a great season 1 mystery about the identity of Michael's poisoner. The discussion at the hatch is monumental, which gives viewpoints to all of them, even managing to give some spotlight to a new character, Arst. 101. Stranger in a Strange Land. You might be surprised that this one is not at the bottom. It's certainly a weak episode, but I'll bring up the positives of the episode that elevates it from the ones we've already talked about. Let's begin with the flashbacks. The flashbacks, well, they are embarrassing, with some cringe-worthy dialogue and characters, but the production is amazing. How touristy the whole place is in the morning, but is a different animal at night. The filmmaker Nicholas Winding Refn even talked about it while shooting Only God Forgives.
I had found this location in Asia, this city of Bangkok by night, which is very magical and very, very Thai. By day, Bangkok is almost more like a fluff of Disneyland with a lot of Westerners and a lot of Thai people that just walk back and forth between each other. But at night, it really becomes a very, very mystical city. It's almost like that's when Thai culture really comes in and takes over, and then in the dawn, it kind of retreats itself, like the fog.
You really get a sense of being in Phuket, and it utilizes a classical trope, the lady in red, the seductress. often a victim of objectification. The dress in these instances are often strapless or sleeveless, scarlet red, and flattering. Red is also the color associated with sex and passion, so it echoes this woman's sexuality.
Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
In Thai folklore, there is also a story of a lady in red that is believed to be the spirit who drowned in the Bang Pakong River. However, Jack is lured into Arturo's lair, and this is like a hellish lair surrounded by flames. The opposite of the heavenly place he's in at the end of the show, but this one is also decorated with elements from other cultures, such as a vast array of Chinese writings, even though this scene takes place in Thailand.
I'm able to see who people are. My work. It's not decoration. It is definition.
The red lighting really sparks something, showing how Jack is in his own hell at this point in time after the whole divorce and drama with his father. It's so incredibly well done, and this scene is one of the most underrated flashback sequences of the show. The music in particular is formidable. The whole sequence, although Jack is way too pushy on Artura, is the best scene in the episode. Now on to the on-island story. The second positive aspect is how we get a glimpse into the cult of the others and their rules. This is something that will be explored much more later in the show with Ben and Widmore, but here we see how much of a religious extremist cult we have of the others.
Her verdict.
And we all know what it's gonna be. We're pretty strict about killing one of our own.
I believe they're all part of the same others code, and this one is ancient, going back to the Code of Hammurabi, written in the Old Babylonian dialect of Akkadian, a collection of Babylonian laws. The stone Korok had their writing on it, so maybe a civilization from Mesopotamia arrived on the island? I believe this rule transferred from this part of the world, transferred to the earliest civilizations on the island, suggested by the rules that Mother made so that the kids wouldn't hurt each other. If you kill an other, you must be punished for it. However, several people have bent those rules. Widmore killed one of their own when he was about to tell them about their camp, just like Miss Clue instructed Mikhail to kill her when they got captured. The rules are also emphasized in the flashbacks, with Artura saying she's not allowed to use her gift on an outsider, but as an outsider, Jack is also deemed great.
Who am I?
You are a leader. A great man.
He's a good man. Maybe a great one.
Even Juliet gets a mark at her back, looking like the symbol of Scientology. The others aren't members of Scientology, but this is an interesting thing they do. The Church of Scientology, they've been scrutinized for their methods and their secrets, many that you could liken to the others. Lost is exploring various aspects of religion. They've done so in Season 1 and 2. They expand it a little bit more in Season 3.
I'm gonna go have a talk with this Mr. Harrison. If he thinks he can fill my son's head with wacko religious crap, he's wrong.
Randy, don't cause trouble.
Let me handle this, Sharon. You gotta put these cult people in their place or else they never stop. I'm gonna go kick this Mr. Harrison's ass.
So, how'd it go, Clubber Lang? You kicked Mr. Harrison's ass?
Not exactly. We're, having their family over for dinner tomorrow night.
Here with the others all in nice clothing, even the tail section being completely swayed by this whole thing. Jack even thinks they are brainwashed and they are there for a trial, but there is a deeper and darker underbelly underneath this brainwashed cult. The author behind Stranger in a Strange Land was also friends with L. Ron Hubbard, the man behind Scientology. So you can create so much analysis out of this episode. The rest with Isabel and Jack being moved to the cages, it's very weak. The Hydra storyline ended with not in Portland, and the audience simply want to get to the barracks immediately. And considering that Isabel was never seen again makes this episode less important. But it's not the worst. It ends nicely with the Oceans Apart montage. 100, The Little Prince, is one of the Time Flashes episodes. This time it revisits 2004 and 2007, both situations we know and a situation we never revisit. The flash forwards are quite weak. The whole business with Dan Norton is a little bit uninteresting. The best scene? Well, the Outrigger chase scene is pretty exciting. And there's also some allure to it, since this is one of the biggest unexplained mysteries of the show, and I also love to theorize about it. 99. Eggtown. In a similar vein, we have Eggtown. This is slightly better than The Little Prince because the flash forwards give us the first glimpse into Kate's life after she was rescued. This is something we want to see since season 1. The trial has a lot of Hollywood lore, but it's a unique flash forward for Lost, and it's quite exciting. The on-island story drags it a bit, with Kate's whole plan to talk to Miles whether or not he knows about her, which is why it's placed so low. The best scene, well, I like the trial and bringing Jack in. This is the first time we hear the Oceanic 6 lie, before it is broadened a bit in the finale. But courtroom dramas are not something we've seen on Lost before, and there's some sort of freshness to this scene. Number 98. Recon. One of the season 6 episodes that look great visually. Unfortunately, the story both in the Flash Sideways and on the island is just okay. The chemistry between Child and Sawyer is non-existent and off. It's very weird, and it's not so exciting on the island though, with Zoe and Seamus. That was an embarrassing entrance. I think the scene with Widmore and Sawyer is a little bit too secretive, and the cliffhanger is quite weak. The best scene? I really like the one in the Flash Sideways with Sawyer watching Little House, but I have to go with Man in Black Locke talking to Kate about his mother. I think one that is a little bit better.
I had some growing pains. Problems that I'm still trying to work my way through. Problems that could have been avoided had things been different.
97. Lighthouse. I'm not a fan of the cinematography of season 6, and this is also an episode that highlights the worst of it. The episode itself is not bad, but it gets a little bit lower ranking due to how bright it looks and that the island has lost so much of its magic. It didn't have the nuances of blacks, which looked so good on Blu-ray. Season 6 was lacking strong saturated colors, especially the blue and greens. It's as if they missed a certain part in their post-production phase, or just didn't bring their light reflectors on location. Take this scene from Lighthouse. This is the exact same camera movement in the exact same filming location in Exodus. The jungle is crisp and dark. It's like we're going into the dark territory, as Rousseau told us. It looks great in season 2, it has the texture we like, but now the sun just overexposes the entire area. It looks so different. It feels like they are walking on the Hawaiian filming location. The magic is gone. But the worst bit might be Claire. We were so excited to finally get her back on Lost. The woman who got claimed by the Man in Black in season 4. Like, look at this scene, it's so intriguing. And she's so unrecognizable in season 6. What happened to her? We spent the previous seasons learning of the 3-year time gap for the Oceanic 6, multiple episodes dedicated to that. We dedicated an episode on Sawyer's time on the island, and earlier, whenever characters were gone for a while, they received centrics that filled in the gap. Claire's story is reduced to clunky exposition.
We never had your kid.
Stop lying to me! Your people took me to the temple and tortured me.
No, we captured you because you were out here in the jungle picking our people off.
Claire, wait! Hold on. Hold on? Jin, they stuck me with needles. They branded me. And if I hadn't been able to escape from the temple, they would have killed me.
No, you're not remembering
Shut up,
things
okay?
right.
That's quite insulting. Yeah, sure, give all the male characters tons of backstory, but Claire gets none. The Flash Sideways story is beautiful though. And the lighthouse sequence is intriguing, but it doesn't have the same punch to it as the cave sequence in the previous episode. The best scene? I like a lot of the character scenes. For instance, the ending of the Flash Sideways is really nice and says so much about Jack's character and his feelings towards his own father, especially after we know that David is not real in this universe and that Jack doesn't have a son. This is not an alternate timeline, but this afterlife makes it so much richer. But even then, I think I like the lighthouse sequence a little bit more. I'm a sucker for Egyptian mythology. 96. Whatever the case may be. I'm sorry to have so many Kate episodes so far down the list. I promise you that there are some Kate episodes that rank quite high for me, and I'll get back to them later in the list. She has a lot of episodes, and Kate is a great character in many of her non-centrics, such as The Man from Tallahassee or Do No Harm, which has some amazing Kate scenes. Whatever the case may be is an episode that does a big time jump. So Jack's promise from the previous episode that as soon as the sun comes back, they will go on another search for Claire, that has already happened off screen, which feels like a disservice to the audience.
We're gonna go back out and look for Claire the moment the sun comes up. And I could really use your help.
This one has the introduction of the toy plane, and that story is not great. But everything around it is a little bit intriguing. I particularly enjoy the start of the relationship with Saeed and Shannon. I think Shannon shows herself as a quite complicated character in this episode, and I also really like Rose and Charlie here. The reference to the beach eroding, because the island moves, and these elements are what I rank above the other bottom tier Kate episodes. The best scene, as I mentioned, the scene with Saeed and Shannon. You really feel it when she storms out. Wonderful performance.
Okay, A, I told you that my French sucks. And B, this isn't my nonsense, okay? Do you ever think that after 16 years on Mystery Frickin' Island, your friend might not be quite adjusted?
This was a mistake.
Yeah. Haven't you heard? I'm completely useless.
'95, Homecoming. Charlie's flashback story is quite weak, and the amnesia story is taken right out of a soap opera. It would have an even worse spot on the list had it not been for how the community reacts to the threat of Ethan. That is great. Building traps and working together is what makes for some great island drama. Additionally, it treats the death of fellow castaways, even though they are unimportant, with dignity. The best scene is probably the whole build-up to the night of the attack. Everyone being stationed at their post, at the beach camp and the caves, and the music being this motif that will later be associated with the others, mostly Mikhail. '94, The Glass Ballerina. It's one of those episodes where you can tell that they need to stall the story. So we've split the aftermath of the season 2 finale in 3 episodes, detailing the 3 groups. The idea of Saeed's group traveling further up to light a new signal fire is a bit of an eye roll. It's not interesting for the audience. And I got a bit irritated that they used this location for the signal fire, looking nothing like the decoy village. They're obviously all on the Pala ferry dock shooting this scene, so it makes for a weird sailing path for them to travel to the Pala ferry dock and see that we're still in the same location. I think the flashbacks are decent, closing on the Jay Lee story, and the best scene is Ben introducing himself to Jack and showing him the Red Sox tape. '93, Dr. Linus. This might come as a shock to you since I know many like this one. There's a beautiful story in the Flash Sideways, but it never got me as invested as the other Ben episodes. I feel like we're still missing a flashback episode of Ben, so it seems off to see a centric with him in a high school, teaming up with Arst for a plot against the principal. There's a lot of layers in the story regarding Ben's history on the island, but it's not enough for it to climb up the ranking. The same goes for the on-island story, which is very stagnant. It also has a plot hole regarding Hurley and Richard.
You're not time traveling?
No.
But you look the same as you did 30 years ago.
Because Hurley has never met Richard. Dr. Linus could have been a great episode to learn more about Ilana, but the show withholds that a lot. There's not a lot of drive here. I've got some mixed feelings with Giacchino using the Oceanic 6 melody at the end, but I guess it repurposes it to be a home theme, which the beach camp could represent. But I wouldn't mind a new theme that incorporates a little bit of Ben's theme as well. I think the score is a little bit too much when the submarine approaches. It gives it a little bit of a cartoony feel. And all of these points are what makes Dr. Linus weaker than many other episodes. But like I mentioned, it's an incredibly moving story. As for the best scene, there's two contenders. Ben confessing the murder of Jacob to Ilana. Now that's a powerhouse performance. No wonder Michael Emerson got an Emmy nomination for the last season. But I'm a mythology guy, so I'll lean more towards the dynamite scene. There's a lot of bleak lighting in the outdoor sequences, but indoors they know how to light it and bring out the blackness. To me, this scene brings up discussions surrounding the power of Jacob's touch, being chosen, the character's destiny, and the power of the island, the way it prevents them from dying, something that it has evolved for a while. 92. SOS. I often see this episode being ranked fairly low amongst Lost fans. Back in season 2, they had time to take a break and do a story like this. In Dr. Linus, I criticized it for being stagnant. So does it mean I contradict myself here? Do I want something fast-paced or slow-paced? Well, the thing is, season 6 is a shorter season, so the pacing shouldn't be the same as in season 2, and it's also the final season, so it should feel like it's wrapping up. Dr. Linus feels like it has the pacing of season 1 or 2, with Ben digging the grave, instead of the good pacing of season 4 and 5. So in season 2, with over 20 episodes, it fits to have an episode like SOS. It is incredibly beautiful, and it doesn't progress the plot a lot, but explores our characters. John's frustration with the blaster map and the button. It even has a nice scene of Echo and Charlie building a church, and even some nice moments with Ana Lucia, with the B-plot being the more plot-driven one, which ends in them finding Michael. SOS also gives a lot of room to the red shirts of the group. I think it's quite lovely, and I'm happy we got it. The flashbacks are well executed and contain some of the most telling clues about the island, the Protector, and its magic, through a scene with Isaac of Uluru. In fact, the entire Uluru mythology is quite fascinating. That really is the best scene.
There are certain places with great energy. Spots on the Earth, like the one we're above now. Perhaps this energy is geological, magnetic. Or perhaps it's something else. And when possible, I harness this energy and give it to others. May I?
'91. Catch-22. You might be surprised to see this one as so low, and by now you might have noticed that some episodes that are usually regarded as bottom tier Lost have not been mentioned yet. Catch-22 is the weakest Desmond episode by far. Learning where his dead brother and his time in the monastery, not that engaging, and his previous relationship with Scottish Pam Beasley is not so interesting. Especially since we've gotten a few clues in the previous episodes about some interesting potential backstories, such as his time in the military, which we'll see in The Constant, but also what he says in this interview.
No, sir. I had to look after my 3 brothers after my father.
Any military experience?
Considering how much the writers love parental issues, I'm surprised that this sentence didn't create a flashback story. I assume his father died, but how? It's not a big issue, but I'm just surprised by it. The flashbacks in Catch-22 are okay, and the meeting with Penny is sweet. The whole story on the beach with Jack, Sawyer, Kate, and Juliet isn't the highlight. Obviously, the trek is cooler. Seeing the vision from Desmond's perspective at the beginning was incredibly cool. But seeing it repeated time and time again throughout the episode made it annoying. Feels like the show is treating the spectator as a goldfish who can't even remember what they saw in the intro. Do you know how many times we get a flash revisit to remind us? 9 times.
Here it is! Here it is! Beacons on this side of the ride. Just one thing. Last time I followed this wire into the jungle, I almost got kebabbed by one of Rousseau's spiky death trap things.
Car down! We're not going in the jungle. Well, not yet.
It weakens that trek, and the show is smarter than that. That being said, the island looks spectacular, and it's not a bad episode because we've already passed the bottom 10. The best scene, although the opener is fantastic, I would like to give a shout out to Jin's ghost story. That scene always makes me laugh.
전 갈고리 손인 줄 알고 무서웠어요.
그러니까 그 남자가 웃으면서 이 말 했지. 걱정 마세요, 소녀 아가씨. 내 갈고리 손은 네 애비 머릿속에 아직도 박혀 있다!
90. Abandoned. I think Shannon was a fascinating character, and we get to see a lot of complexities in her flashbacks as well as on the island. Although she can't compete with a lot of the other main characters, she's still worth talking about. The Walt appearances are a bit odd, considering this is his final appearance this season in this manner, until his real appearance later in the season 2 finale. This could have been a golden opportunity to see things from his perspective, whether or not he is projecting these visions from Room 23. I think that would be quite interesting for the fans, considering that we still are withholding a little bit of mythology at this point in time. Like I mentioned for Adrift, there's a potential of utilizing Malcolm David Kelly much more than just the visions, since Malcolm expressed a lot of the times that he wanted to do more, he loved coming back to the show. You could get quite creative. Abandoned is not as exciting on rewatches, but it's not the bottom of the barrel. The best scene is Utilis bringing Sawyer over that hill. It shows you simple obstacles can create powerful scenes of teamwork. The music is peak Lost, and it ends on an unsettling note when Cindy goes missing and they hear the whispers. 89. I Do. Here we are thrown into the mini-season finale and an intense situation at Hydra Island. The Kate flashbacks are still quite weak, but they tie up a few things that were brought up earlier, like Kate's short marriage, Edward Mars mentioning how she kept calling him many times, and even that small detail from season 2 about her taking a pregnancy test. I love that they pay attention to details like that. I think Echo's burial is nice, but I think I would have rewritten this scene a little bit differently. It makes more sense for it to be Desmond and Locke, with Desmond, who has no idea what the monster is the character who is asking all the questions instead of Saeed.
So what killed Echo? Folks back at the beach call it the monster.
The operation is quite intense. Even though the episode ranks quite low, this was the final season before the winter break, and I think what Kate did, which has a much higher ranking for me, is a much better finale for the fall rather than this one, which ends abruptly. Even though the best scene being that cliffhanger ending.
You are, go!
Jack, I said!
Go, now!
I can't!
Hey, damn it, run!
88. Collision. This is more or less continuing the story from Shannon's death, and Lucia's flashbacks are solid even though she's not the most compassionate character. This scene with the lighting, so incredibly cool.
I know you.
I was pregnant.
The various crashes are handled quite well. I particularly love how Jack and Kate's golf match is interrupted by Echo carrying Sawyer, or Echo meeting Locke for the first time, and the musical montage at the end is nice. It's still a transition episode that stretches the Shannon death scenario over several episodes, but it's still nice. And the best scene is the montage at the end. Drop dead gorgeous. This is what Lost does best. 87. Every Man for Himself. A part of the Hydra mini-season. It looks magnificent, it does a good job highlighting several of the others and their hierarchy. The scenes with Ben and Sawyer are well directed and written. The beach camp storyline is also quite nice, seeing how Desmond has prevented Charlie's death. The Hydra Island twist is quite fun. The best scene here is Sawyer on the table. Very creepy. You get some clues about the discharge event.
In the 2 days since the sky turned purple, we've been blind. Our comms are all down, and I can't get them back up again. And in case you forgot, Colleen's in critical...
Juliet's taken care of.
But also see some of the lower ranked others. The flashbacks though are quite weak, but I like the scene with Cassidy. 86. Further instructions. This one has the weakest Locke flashbacks, and you know they are running low on backstory material. The story on the island is fine. The cinematography is excellent. We're finally out of the swamp and into the crisp green jungle again, with a boar and polar bear adventure. The banter between the characters is fun, even though it's an episode that drags like the rest of the mini-season. The very best scene here is of course the vision in the sweat lodge with Boone. 85, Two for the Road. Two for the Road has one of the most nail-biting and intense ending of the entire show. Without any music, it has our pulse to the maximum. But we have to judge the entire episode, not just the ending. And the entire episode isn't the most interesting one. It continues Ana Lucia's flashback story from the previous episode and pieces together why she went to Australia. Although it feels a bit off that it was with Christian Shephard, but it's fine. Honey planning a picnic is cute. By now it's been a bit tiresome with how little Henry Gale has told about his people. And we've already had a near-death scenario like this, so on a rewatch you're just watching it for the build up to the ending. Which obviously is the best. Scene, no music, just intensity through actions and sound effects.
Michael?
84, the beginning of the end. The season 4 premiere is a bit low on the list, but the thing is, I think it doesn't work so well as a premiere. It's easier to digest during the streaming age, when you don't have almost 8 months of waiting time before entering a new season, and when you finish this episode, it's on to the next. Quite easy. The thing is that the hardcore fans knew Harold Perrineau would return. We have gotten the cast announcement for the Freighter folks. The fans were ready to meet the newcomers and to learn what their role was. Even the promos had so much footage from episode 2 and 3.
Rescuing their people, can't really say it's our primary objective.
Then what is?
Whatever they came for, it isn't us. Every single living person on this island will be killed.
Yeah, I was thinking I was gonna get a good night's sleep.
There's a traitor in your midst.
Let go of me! Help! You want to know why we're here? I'll tell you why we're here.
You really don't stand a chance now.
No!
Goodbye, Benjamin.
Obviously, the characters on the show need to process what happened, the fact that Charlie died and wrote Not Penny's boat, burying the others, the clash between Jack and Locke, and so on. So I understand why the episode is written like that, but to maximize the audience ratings and gear them up for season 4, I think they should have aired the beginning of the end and Confirmed Dead on the same night, or maybe restructure the season 4 premiere. I believe Lost would lose less viewers with that. It is realistic within the community, it has that which is great, but the chopper arriving at the final 10 seconds is dragging it a little bit too much. Imagine if we only got 10 seconds of the hatch in Man of Science, Man of Faith, and wouldn't even get to explore Desmond until the next episode. The opening sequence is a little bit weak. Every single season opener has given us such a mind-boggling twist, which also says a lot about the season. There's not much of a twist here since we all could guess it was Hurley driving the car, since it was the one from Trisha Tanaka's dad. So the reveal doesn't give us much, and Hurley yelling that he is one of the Oceanic Six is not that exciting, since we already know that some left the island. The Abaddon scene is the highlight of the flash forwards, but every one of us wants to see the chopper land and the freighter people. The episode also has the most out of character moment for Jack when he pulls the trigger on a gun that would blow the face up in front of all the men, women and children he's known for the past 100 days. Not a fan of that. The episode stalls, but the episode doesn't stall because of Charlie's death. It stalls because of the whole RF interference.
Hi, this is Kate.
You with Jack?
No, he's not here.
Where's Naomi?
We're looking for her.
What do you mean you're looking for her?
Confirmed that is a true premiere for season 4. But the best scene is Abaddon and Hurley. Awesome dialogue. And the framing is very peculiar, especially here when it looks like his head is amongst this chalkboard here, with an island, shark and raft.
Are they still alive?
What?
You heard me.
83. Fire plus Water. This is tied as the lowest rated episode of Lost, and yet it still pops up here. Am I crazy? Well, for starters, I still have it in my lower half. There's over 80 episodes better than this, and in my opinion, it doesn't deserve all the hate. Let's begin with the flashbacks. I think they're much better than his drug life in Homecoming. It's a much more raw and tactile relationship here with his brother Liam. I love the apartment they live in, as well as the song choice by the Kings, with lyrics such as "He comes on smooth, cool and kind, but he wants your body, not your mind. He is just the devil in disguise," which you connect to the Man in Black. It all starts with this great psychedelic nightmare, which starts out as a memory.
You're special, love. Someday you're gonna get us out of here, all of us.
Then fuses together other memories, until it fuses onto the island. I love it. But the opening of the episode tells us so much more, with a lot of religious symbols in the entire episode. Fire plus Water being elements that work well with the biblical nature of the final stretch of the show. There's a lot of foreshadowing, such as Hurley being John the Baptist, or the importance of water in this episode. Aaron and Claire being baptized by Echo could also tie to the healing waters of the temple. The Holy Spirit is also something you can connect to the heart of the island. You can rewatch this episode so many times and analyze with both a biblical framework or a psychological one regarding the dreams. People don't like Charlie here, but it's a low point for Charlie. You're supposed to be annoyed and angry at him. Season 2 is a dark season, and we're on a stretch of episodes that really explore the many traumas of the characters, highlighted by the Hatch, which brings out the worst in them. This episode is in a stretch as the hunting party, the long con and one of them, some exploring the underbelly of their subconscious. It makes his final redemption when he throws the statue at the end of the season so rewarding, because we've been through this hellish nightmare that is Fire plus Water. You need the misery. Additionally, people don't like that Locke hit Charlie. That's also a low point. Locke is definitely under a lot of stress in this one, but I don't think it's an out of character moment for him. He didn't even knock Charlie unconscious, which is quite common on the show, and Locke has shown a side like this before when he knocked out Sayid in season 1. They had only been there for a week and he knocks Sayid unconscious and leaves him in the jungle. For all we know, Sayid could have been eaten by a polar bear or taken by the monster. It's a more serious situation than what he did in this episode, so I'm not that bothered by it. There's some fantastic lines in the episode, and my favorite scene is the very symbolic dream, which looks like the Verrocchio painting. This painting has an extra layer of importance since the entire episode literally opens to a close-up of it. Compared to other openers that either begins right into the action or a flashback sequence, this one fades in to the hands of God. A dove and rays of sunlight shine through, which symbolize the Holy Spirit shining above them, revealing Jesus' divine nature. Enhanced by Charlie coming down the stairway to heaven into the living room where it's Christmas, the holiday commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ. Anyway, the painting is referenced throughout this dream. If you look over here, a raptor swoops down over the head of John the Baptist and into the trees in the background. This is referenced with the Beechcraft in the dream.
Baby is in danger. Baby, you have to save him.
You see it here. The angels are represented by his mom Megan and Claire. This angel is described as more divine than this one, which makes sense since Charlie's mom passed away, while Claire is alive, and the dove is also seen, this time flying out of the painting. 82. Confidence Man. The plot is simple and doesn't bear as much relevance to the overall Lost mythology. That's okay. I think there are stronger Sawyer episodes out there. This one just showing one of his cons, disguised as a trick for the audience. We are supposed to believe the letter was written to him and not by him, so the episode's flashback has to keep us thinking that. It's fine though. I really like how they use Sun in this episode, how she is the one who helps Shannon with the asthma attacks, and you have the shot of Jin at the end. The kissing scene is gorgeously framed, but the best scene is the super cute scene with Claire and Charlie, and the empty jar of peanut butter.
Full to the brim, with stick to the roof of your mouth. Oh God, makes you want a glass of milk, extra smooth. It's the best bloody peanut butter I've ever tasted. You want some?
81. Sundown. This one could have been higher on the list since it's the finale of the Temple arc, but it also feels a bit anticlimactic. It feels like we've wasted a little bit of the characters of Dogen and Len, and the execution of the Temple wasn't up to the standard of Lost. I for one love the location, it's just that the lighting made it a bit too bright, where it felt more like styrofoam rather than stone. Except for that, it had so much Egyptian and Indian culture and history within it, but the temple is not touched upon again in the show. I would have loved it to be a permanent set for season 6, and that Man in Black Glock would have turned it into his temple, like Colonel Kurtz turned the Southeast Asian temple in Apocalypse Now into his gloomy headquarters filled with dead bodies. So this puts the episode lower for me, and there are some goofs that bother me, such as the misspelling. Said's storyline in season 6 is not my favorite, but I like a lot of the scenes and ideas here. The music is fantastic, his meeting with Man in Black Glock is quite cool, and so is Claire's presence in this episode. The temple attack is epic, and the ending is haunting. As for the best scene, well, I'll go for a more comedic one, Kimi's introduction.
Make whatever you want, fried, scrambled. You still got that poacher. What's the poacher? You want poached? Because I could make you some good poached eggs.
No, thank you.
I make good eggs.
80. Par Avion. I think the flashback story with Goth Claire is quite decent and shows that you can still do a lot with the younger female characters in the show. She does a terrific job here, and it has that Christian Shepherd twist that we all knew was coming. Shannon, for instance, was also a young character. She was killed off a bit too early, when there was potential to explore a lot about her past, such as her marriage. At least they give a little bit more to Claire's background. The A plot here is definitely weaker than the B plot. Even though I like how Sun and Jin are involved in this plan, it feels like a season 1 storyline, maybe season 2. None of us are interested in the birds, and it feels more meaningless considering that Mikhail mentions this episode that the others have a submarine that they use to travel to and from the island. The B plot is amazing. Something as simple as Kate climbing that tree branch and getting past the sonic fence is so on the edge of your seat exciting, and the episode gets a lot of plus of having Evangeline Lilly doing her own stunts. Like I mentioned earlier, Kate is usually incredible outside of her eccentrics, and the B plot ends on a memorable cliffhanger, Jack playing football with Tom. One of the best scenes is the introduction of the sonic fence, and did you know that this is shot behind the Yumi Huli Huli chicken? You can see it on Google Street View. The valley behind is the Hakipu Valley, used for several other scenes on Lost. The scene is topped off with a Giacchino music track that never found its way to the soundtrack. It's the runner-up, with the best scene being Mikhail experiencing the sonic fence. That sound effect, like a distorted tuba, is really epic.
Thank you.
'79 And Found. And Found's flashbacks have the classical romantic format of poor village boy meeting rich girl from the city. It even has the meet cute moment we see in romantic movies.
아이고 죄송합니다.
제가 죄송해요.
괜찮으세요?
예.
예, 여기 있습니다.
예.
네, 제가
Oh, I beg your pardon, madam. Here, let me help you.
I never. Watch where you're going.
Here, I'll fix your hat for you. No, that's not quite the right
My
angle.
hat.
Oh!
Shit! Bugger!
God!
I'm so sorry. Here.
We've seen it time and time again, but since we have explored how their marriage was falling apart, it is interesting that the show decides to show their relationship's inception, how it all started. I think there's several scenes here that tell a good story. The episode starts with a flashback of what the characters are supposed to wear. Sun has a full wardrobe where she can't figure out what to wear, while Jin has no clothes. He has to buy a tie with a tag on so he can return it after the job interview. Sun mentions that she wanted to get a college degree, while Jin speaks highly of working himself up to the top. It's interesting to me that Jin is very concerned about getting respect, while this doesn't seem to bother Sun.
You okay?
I lost my wedding ring.
Sun's search for her wedding ring drags the episode down, hence why it's placed at 79. While the search for Michael is quite exciting, the jungle is lush and mysterious, the scene with the others is quite intense, and it's also what I would put in as the best scene. It's simple, but we're so freaked out by it. What drags it down is how Michael is written and the yelling. Number 78, Special. The Michael and Walt centric episode that has that wonderful title Special. It's kind of synonymous with being one with the Force from Star Wars. It doesn't spell things out, but shows how freaky it is being with young Walt, who may have caused his mother's illness, unintentionally of course. I also like how season 1 Michael is not as one-noted as he is in season 2. It's not the most interesting on-island story. The polar bear is one of the worst CGIs in the show, and Saeed's map revelation is not so satisfying and more or less a loose thread. The cliffhanger is great, and the best scene is in the flashbacks with Walt reading about the birds, and there's that small intensity in Susan getting sick, Brian not paying attention to Walt, and then Walt manages to get this bird hit the window. You don't need extravagant CGI. This is more than enough.
Not looking.
Oh my God.
Is it dead?
Yeah. Poor guy.
77, Namaste. Namaste is a fun one, and I feel like we've crossed over a line to some really good episodes now. We still have a long way until the masterpieces come along. Namaste's biggest hurdle is that it feels a bit disjointed. It tackles a lot and doesn't have that personality you get with character-centric episodes. There's some multi-centric episodes that work extremely well, like some of the finales, but when things are just so plot-driven, they get a bit anonymous. The Last Recruit, which is ranked lower on my list, suffers from the same thing, but I admire a lot about Namaste. The plane landing sequence was a massive undertaking, and even though it doesn't look like a big Hollywood budget movie, it's the best they can do with a small budget on a TV show in the mid to late 2000s. Christian Shepherd's inclusion is fantastic. That scene is so creepy, with the picture almost reminding me of that picture from The Shining. I think I would say that is the best scene, even though it's quite short. It's very creepy and I love it. Number 76, The Hunting Party. The Hunting Party has an exciting island trek. It loses a little bit of its impact on the future rewatches. Jack's flashback story is weak. I honestly prefer his Thailand adventure over this one with Gabriella Busoni and her father. I know that we need to see the falling out of his marriage at some point in time, but it's definitely what dragged down this amazing episode. I love the scene with Charlie and Hurley in the Swan, with a brief appearance by Saeed. That was fun. But the very best scene is obviously the meeting with Mr. Friendly.
This is our island. And the only reason you're living on it is because we let you live on it.
75, DOC. The final Ordinary Sun and Jin flashback episode, and it really feels like the final one. We might not need it, but it's nice we got it. And a wonderful revisit of Jin's father. Considering that Sun actually knows him, there's a possibility she helped him out in the future. Anyway, it's still not the strongest from Sun and Jin. On the island, I think Sun's story is well told. I like the dynamic she has with Juliet, and they found new use of the medical station. On the other side of the island, the medical issue with Naomi is intense. The sound effects crawl down your spine here.
Is that normal?
And it uses all the characters quite well. The best scene is the one between Juliet and Sun seeing the baby. That was so touching. 74. The Long Con. The dark phase of season 2 has the dark phase of Sawyer, with a lot of tropes from classical crime thrillers in both the flashbacks and the island story. A lot of twists and turns, and power play between so many characters. The best scene being Sawyer in the dark emerging as the new sheriff in town, when we realize that just like in the flashbacks, he constructed an elaborate con for the entire episode to get a hold on all the guns. 73. The Greater Good. This Saeed flashback episode tells us what he did prior to the crash. Interesting story, but not as good as his other flashback episodes. On the island, it's a fine continuation of the events in Do No Harm. Fantastic that we went back to the Beechcraft, and even though all we, the audience, wants is that Locke takes Saeed to the hatch, which ends the episode. But the best scene is probably the funeral. A lot of emotions, and that awkward entry by Locke in the blood-soaked shirt, leading to Jack flying towards him.
What did you do? Hey, wait! Jack! Where were you? I just left him to die! You lied to me! Where were you?
72. Ji-yeon. Considering that we're in season 4, the pace is quicker. They managed to give us an angelic Jin and Sun episode, yet also be mythologically active. The trick with Jin's story being a flashback feels a bit cheap, and definitely loses its impact on future watchers, but it's a fun idea, and it works. It would have been annoying if they did it twice in the show, but seeing as Jin and Sun will be separated in time later in the show, it's a good way to foreshadow that. Her acting is terrific, and you really feel the toll at the end when they visit the grave. That's the best scene of the episode. Yoon-jin Kim manages to convey how much she misses the love of her life, and it's an expressive ending with the music and all. 71. Hearts and Minds. Stunning episode is the one with Boone's spirit quest and his flashbacks with Shannon, which details a forbidden love that I think the show handled pretty well. Solid episode. The dialogue he has with Log are fascinating. We also get a lot of good character moments from the rest. My favorite scene is this one. Here's some of my thoughts on it from a previous analysis. The fact that Lost went there and did not tone down the subject was impressive. The music reminds me of erotic thrillers that deal with similar subjects. And a bit different from what we have heard from Giacchino on the show. And this shot of Boone is really long.
Boone.
What?
When we get back to LA.
It's 12 seconds of almost complete darkness. Dialogue scenes in dark rooms like this are not common on Lost, so this scene sticks out of all the flashback scenes. And this shot gives a unique sexual tone, and the look of Boone being filled with confusion and regret, and many other conflicting emotions after having slept with his stepsister, is a great shot on the show. I think of paintings like Edvard Munch's Ashes, which shows the man hunched over in shame after having had sexual intercourse with this woman, and the painting's title suggests that the heat of their love and passion had burned out. It was painted by Munch at a time when he had an affair with the wife of a cousin. Number 70, What They Died For. The penultimate episode of the show. It ends up in the 70th place, mainly due to the cinematography with a drab looking island, the 3-day trek of Ben, Richard and Miles that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't have the most emotionally engaging flash sideways. I would have loved to get more out of the Ben and Danielle scenes, especially since he deserved an awakening montage with Alex rather than the punch in the face montage, which was a bit comedic. The rest of the episode is fabulous. The fireside chat is wonderfully written and definitely the best scene. Superb job giving us a few questions regarding Jacob, being protector and the monster, but without having a quiz show on the island or some clunky exposition. 69, House of the Rising Sun. There's some terrific acting here among the characters, and it shows why Lost is so amazing in the simple situations. They bring up race and nationality, and there's some nuances in the quarreling. Episodes like House of the Rising Sun manages to give some room to nearly every character. The cave versus the beach discussion highlights that. And there's a lot you can read simply out of the scenes with no dialogue. Just look at Yoonjin's acting and how she conveys so many emotions. The best scene is at the end of the flashbacks, when she plans on leaving Jin and she doesn't. A delicate performance. They both do so much with their eyes. 68, A Tale of Two Cities. Sensational season opener. It doesn't have the same punch as the season 2 one, but it tells us a lot about the theme of the season. It is still the mini-season arc, so the episode only focuses on Jack, Kate and Sawyer, so it's a bit limiting. Lost is an ensemble show after all, and should invite you to the party after a whole summer of waiting on what happened after Swan was imploded. The flashbacks are fine, not Jack's best, the action is terrific, and I particularly enjoy the mystery of the Hydra facility. The escape is intriguing as well as Kate's breakfast. The show really pops up in the colors in this episode. The best scene is the opening scene.
And why isn't it literature, Adam? I'm dying to know.
There's no metaphor. It's by the numbers, religious hokum pokum.
No metaphor?
It's science fiction. Now I know why Ben isn't here.
Excuse me?
I know the host picks the book, but seriously, Julie, he wouldn't read this in the damn bathroom.
'67, Tabula Rasa. Oh hey, it's been a while since a Kate episode has appeared on the list. Yes, this one is quite solid. It bridges on from the amazing pilot and shows how Kate wound up on Flight 815. Even though the flashbacks are not the strongest, they convey a small story and do the trick. The best thing is the on-island stories. A lot of great character moments, and it continues to explore and develop a lot of our heroes. Saeed showing himself as a leader, Jack making some harsh decisions. Just look at scenes like this, where the show gives room to so many characters.
I wish he would just die already.
Real humane, Shan.
Anything I can do to help?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Even the red shirts are more prominent now than they are in later seasons. The log scenes are fantastic, and so is the ending montage, with Walt reuniting with Vincent. The best scene is not the ending montage, but the many twists and turns in this scene. First being surprised to hear the gunshot, then to see that it was Sawyer, and then the third surprise being that the marshal survived the gunshot.
Oh, no way. Guys.
66, Not in Portland. The continuation of I Do. Although Juliet's story is much more intriguing than Kate's, even though most of us want to see how she got to the island, I think her background here in Miami is vital. Her story with her sister is really interesting. We get to see Richard Alpert for the first time. The on-island activity is more interesting than in I Do, since we venture into a new part of the Hydra Island, and we get more out of the romance between Carl and Alex. The best scene is obviously Room 23 and its hypnotic message that got us glued in. '65, The Variable. You might be surprised that this isn't higher, but I think it's an episode with interesting philosophical discussion that is simply too action-driven. I think the tempo is just too damn high, and they speed through Daniel Faraday's life too fast. He deserves at least 1 or 2 more centric episodes, like him falling in love with Charlotte on the freighter seems like a given story point that could help a lot on rewatches, as well as the scenes in The Flash Sideways. And I think the mention of Ann Arbor in episode 10 might have been a foreshadowing of us seeing Ann Arbor in the 70s. That would be extravagant. Daniel Faraday living in the 1970s US with a knowledge of the attempted assassination of President Gerald Ford, or maybe meeting Stephen Hawking, who was studying quantum mechanics at the time. In a longer season we could have gotten more, but the episode is cramming everything about Faraday in one episode. There's some big implications in what Daniel says, and I think he should be back for a longer time and have a longer realization that he can change things. It seems too sudden that he has changed his mind, even though he states his reasons for it. I think it's a mistake that they did not bring up the paradoxical nature of them detonating the hydrogen bomb. The audience are now getting confused as to whether or not his plan can work. It feels like this should have sit a little longer with the characters. Instead we're speeding towards the finale. That being said, it's a brilliant hour of television with an amazing ending. I really like the scene with Daniel at the piano and his mother coming in crying, getting around the idea of sending him on a quest that will lead him to the island in the future. 64. The Other 48 Days. I think this one would rank much higher on my list back in the day, but seeing as how quickly the Tailies got killed off, it doesn't have a lasting importance to the mythology of Lost. But still, it's a well-rounded exploration of their life on the island. It resolves a lot of things, and the structure is a breath of fresh air. We never got an episode like this before, showing things day by day like that. It explores the characters, especially the religious side of Echo. It also gives us a little bit more clues about the others, especially what Goodwin says, which suggests that they have another worldview. I love the exploration of the Arrow and the various stuff they find, but the best scene of the episode for me is the cold open, a very unique opening for Lost, from the perspective of just the audience. '63, The Economist. Solid Saeed episode with Bond-like Saeed in the flash forwards. I think they are more exciting than the on-island events, although I'm fond of how they develop a few of the freighter characters such as Miles and Daniel Faraday. The latter is quite fun with his experiment. I would say that that's my favorite scene, when the rocket lands and there is a time discrepancy. 62. Everybody Hates Hugo. This episode has really climbed over the years. It shows a lot of character in Hurley and the response of the community to the Swan Station. A lot of foreshadowings to his role as future protector, and sometimes you just need one particular event in the flashbacks that illuminates your point. The pacing is very nice, and I think it paints the Tailies in a fascinating way. Great use of so many characters, for instance Rose. I think Ana Lucia is also quite intriguing in this episode. And oh my god, Lost really knows how to shoot in the dark. Just look at this scene underneath the Swan Station. Fantastic lighting here, and the implication of what happened at the Swan, similar to Chernobyl. The best scene is Hurley's handouts, Hurley taking a leadership position, and for the very first time since the camp split in two, the caves and the beach, they have a big meal together on the camp, underneath the stars. Even including the hatch dwellers like Locke, Jack and Kate are there taking a break from the button. Lost really knows their montages. 61. All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. A great Jack-centric episode focusing on the mission to find Claire. The flashbacks are also quite good. There's some sensational character moments between the four heroes. I also like that Michael is going on his own trek with a bunch of red shirts. That could have been a Mobisode, him going south to find Claire. The rescue of Charlie is also heartbreaking and definitely the best scene. So emotional and gripping. 60. Dave. A psychological entry into Hurley's mind. I think the flashbacks are quite interesting and shows us a lot about Hurley's mental health struggles. Incredibly well done twist, and they balance something quite serious with comedy pretty well. You see how these struggles in the backstory are now haunting him on the island. It's also one that fits into the grander narrative and makes us question whether or not Dave on the island is the Man in Black or just Hurley's hallucination. The best scene being Dave leading Hurley to the cliff, passing by these red gingers that make the island pop up. 59. The Candidate. The Candidate is an overpowering episode, but what weighs it down is the first half of it. The off-putting night turns into day and then becomes night again. And I also don't like the cinematography. I think Michael Giacchino is using the orchestra a little bit too excessive here. I think Man in Black Locke should have turned into the monster here, but that's more nitpicking. The flash sideways are beautiful, but once again, we feel detached from them, especially since everything on the island is so hectic and action-packed. The true highlight is the submarine sequence, the best scene. Not because it contains death, but each and every character gets a moment, everyone is true to themselves, and the lighting is magnificent, going from one call to another. The production is impeccable. It would have been near the top if the rest of the episode had this type of caliber. Every character gets something to do and say, and it all rings true to their characteristics.
She's still up there.
No, we can't leave without her. We can't.
Okay, she's gonna be okay.
Jack, can't find a first aid kit, dude.
Hurley is not the brightest guy on the planet, so of course he doesn't find the clearly visible first aid kit. They make sure that Kate wants to go back for Claire. Lapidus, being the pilot, is of use with a sub-captain. Jin and Sun obviously have that tearful ending. Sayid gets to be his all technological self, and Jack and Sawyer has this amazing dialogue about the bomb. There's so many pitfalls that could end up in an expository detailed dialogue about the rules of Man in Black, but they never fall in those pitfalls. Truly an amazing sequence. And what a production as water begins to fill inside the submarine. Frank climbs down a ladder where a bulkhead suddenly gives way, knocking him out, and we're thinking, did they just kill Frank Lapidus right there and then? And the colors reflect the incredible danger, along with the amazing score by Michael Giacchino. And I love the blinking red light. It's like an open wound that is pulsating. 58. The Life and Death of Jeremy Bentham. This is an episode that has fallen down a lot for me. It has a lot to live up to. It has to connect all the Jeremy Bentham visits and mentions we had in the season 4 finale. So it feels like it is laying down the tracks in front of itself, trying to press everything in and racing in an immense speed. Landing in Tunisia, getting all around the world, meeting the Oceanic Six as well as Walt and Ben, how this visit impacted Jack, but also John Locke's death. There's so much going on that this should have been a two-parter. I mean, many of these shows have two-parters in the middle of their season, and I think that should be the case here, even though that would add much more episodes to the entire package of the 3 seasons that they ordered from ABC. Even the gravity of Helen's death is reduced to a short scene before Abaddon is killed off very quickly and then Locke is in a car crash. It also creates a bit of inconsistencies regarding the timeline and has been a pickle to solve, especially how long it is between this scene and so on. The best scene is the entire exchange between Locke and Ben. Amazing acting and such a long dialogue too. It's very, very dark.
I was just trying to get to you, but you drove off and crashed. Why would... He was working for Charles Widmore. He's extremely dangerous.
No! Widmore came to me. He saved me.
No, Johnny used you. He waited till you showed up so that you could help him get to the island. Charles Widmore is the reason I moved to the island.
57. Because You Left. The season 5 premiere is quite exhilarating, but compared to A Tale of Two Cities, this one manages to let all the characters breathe, even giving us a small scene with Desmond at the end. It shows us the trajectory of season 5 much better than the beginning of the end, which stalls a bit, but this one has a better pacing. It plants all of these ideas. I love the scene with the meeting between Daniel and Desmond. I was so happy to see the hazmat suit again. This is the best scene.
Just fry. Then my operator starts grabbing his head and freaking out. We sewed our image to the wall. There's an open chamber about 20 meters in, behind the rock. There's something in there.
56. The Cost of Living. Echo's death episode is his weakest. Nikki and Paolo scenes are a bit cringeworthy and don't fit the seriousness of this episode. That being said, it does a great job completing his character even though it feels a bit abrupt. There's a strong adventure here, connecting the Pearl and the Beechcraft, and a lot of mythology regarding the monster and his appearance. The best scene is Echo's confession and Yemi's revelation. 55. The Moth. Another awe-inspiring character-driven episode, which also shows the ensemble of the Season 1 episodes. I love Season 1 for that aspect. They sprinkle in more skills and traits to our heroes, such as Michael's background in construction, breaking away from what could be a one-note character. Episodes like The Moth builds up character for everyone, even including Shannon with her minimal screen time. The jungle is crisp and saturated, the island sparks with life in this episode, and you have that many layers of Locke's speech about the cocoon being applicable to Charlie, one who has to struggle to get out of it, even in a literal sense, when both he and Jack end up trapped in the cave. I enjoy the flashbacks, and the best scene is Locke's story about the moth.
This moth's just about to emerge. It's in there right now, struggling. It's digging its way through the thick hide of the cocoon. Now, I could help it. Take my knife, gently widen the opening, and the moth would be free. But it would be too weak to survive. The struggle is nature's way of strengthening it.
54-316. A very plot-driven episode, but compared to the life and death of Jeremy Bentham, this one is much more focused. There is a solid drive here, with Jack being the focal point, a lot of picturesque cinematography, and some intriguing scenes with Eloise Hawking. I think it has a little bit too much exposition at first. This could have been written a little bit better. The best scene though is when Jack goes back to his apartment and it's pitch black, and the piano starts with this melody we haven't heard before. It's also monochromatic, like a black and white movie, before we see that it's Kate and the flash forward flashback theme plays. "53. Whatever happened, happened." It's incredibly emotional, and you can't help but cheer on Kate when she decides to go back to the island for Claire and not for Sawyer or any other men. That whole scene is so wonderful, and it's the best scene, no doubt about it. It's all nicely tied to the island story with young Ben. There's a lot of fantastic dialogue sequences. I especially love Hurley and Miles. We needed a scene like that, especially after the drab "He's Our You." I really like the scene where Richard takes Ben to the temple, and also that cut to the present day Ben and him meeting Man in Black Locke. 52. Some like it hot. This might be much higher on my list than you anticipated. I also like it much more than the more popular The Variable. I think Some Like It Hot takes a break and breathes much better. It's like a classical season 1 episode with Miles in the center and an emotional core. There's not a lot of stakes and a lot of action, and that's fine. You don't need that, and it still gives us a little bit of that mythological groove with them visiting the Swan site. I also like that they don't treat the audience as idiots. Most of us had figured out that Peter Chang probably was Miles' father, and this is not treated as a big reveal at the end of the episode. It's just part of an act ending. The show realizes that the fans has probably guessed this piece of evidence, and instead explores those characters much better than just leading up to a twist. The best scene is when Miles looks at the Chang residence and see his father tending to his younger self. It really pulls your heartstrings. 51. Trisha Tanaka is dead. This is an episode with so much heart and joy. It's a fun backstory, and it's a warm comedic episode that breaks away from the drama surrounding the others. And it also has a lot of mythological value and value for Hurley. This is the one where he breaks the curse. Desmond's life-altering moment was when he turned the failsafe key, but Hurley's moment was the key in the van that also started playing Shambhala, named after the legendary mythical kingdom in Tibetan Buddhism, often translated as a place of peace. That's really fantastic. And I think the best scene is just the comedic banter between the characters in front of the van. Like, moments like this is what gives heart to the show.
Car.
Car.
Okay. International House of Pancakes.
50. Outlaws. Although the island plot is not the best, it's still incredibly well done. A lot of emotions in this episode with great character moments. The true highlight is the flashback for me. It's wonderfully shot. This flashback sequence is almost 10 minutes long. It plays out like a short film. This entire sequence has a distinct color scheme, a blue tint all over it. It's a moody western which includes the criminal, the gun, and the victim. The lone gunman staring at his enemy with the slow clucks of the darkest strings of the harp, almost sounding like an old guitar. And the sequence cutting between the tight close-ups of Sawyer as well as the gun. It plays out like a Sergio Leone sequence, and while it builds up, it doesn't go back to the island. It stays with the lone gunman going to the bar. Heck, even Christian Shepherd calls Sawyer cowboy in this scene. The tense situation transitions to the bar and builds up in another way, and I love the way the light just shines on these lonely souls in the bar like a spotlight. I think the Christian and Sawyer connection is so much better than the Christian and Ana Lucia connection we had in Two for the Road. Everything is so brilliantly written, and ending it with Sawyer's realization on the island that he met Jack's father in Sydney and that he's dead. It really hits you. 49. What Kate Did. A magnificent Kate episode that also acts like an ensemble episode. It's deeply rooted into her character with a backstory that is miles above everything we saw in season 1 or later season 3. There's so many clues of her background, like the camera passing the trophies, suggesting that Kate grew up as a horse girl, once again connecting it to the black horse. We also wonder whether or not Wayne sexually abused Kate. It's so off-putting.
Hey, just gave you a compliment.
Yeah, I heard you.
You gonna take my pants off first? You are beautiful.
The way he grabs her like that. You don't need a lot of lines to tell that they have history. Even though she's the main character here, we have terrific scenes with so many others too. Like Jin finally losing his handcuffs, or Michael not shouting for Walt but being interested in the hatch and the blast doors. You have a fantastic conversation between Sayid and Kate, or this supernatural aspect of Sawyer where potentially the ghost of Wayne has gone into him, and whether or not this same thing happened to the boar, whether or not Frank Duckett's voice was connected to the boar, maybe Wayne had attached himself to Sawyer. Those are great discussion points. The best scene is the one with Echo and Locke. It's so brilliant, your ears are sharpened and you are so into Echo's story.
And when Josiah asked why this was, the secretary replied, "We found a book." Do you know this story?
No, afraid I don't.
Once again, this episode ended before the Christmas break, but compared to I Do, which just landed in the middle of an action-packed sequence, this one is a major cliffhanger, with Michael chatting with someone who claims to be Walt. 48. Follow the Leader. A plot-driven episode with no character eccentricity if you don't count it to be a rigid episode. It's one that sets up everything in motion for the finale. It's not as good as the other penultimate episodes with a strong character centricity like Greatest Hits or 3 Minutes, but it's better than others. For instance, it's much more exciting than the multicentric What They Died For, and it looks much better. They tie up a lot of storylines in this one. Everything from Pierre Chang sending away Lara and Miles, or Charlotte being sent away, to stuff like Jughead, the return of Sayid, and addressing that he shot Benjamin Linus. It summarizes season 5 in a fantastic way. It has its character moments as well as some deep Lost Island mythology. The best scene is the PlayStation 2 submarine. No, I'm just joking. That's the worst scene. The worst scene of the episode. My favorite scene is probably Pierre Chang questioning Hurley.
Yes, I am.
So you fought in the Korean War?
There's no such thing.
Who's the President of the United States?
All right, dude, we're from the future.
47. Orientation. A flashbacks continue Locke's tragic backstory, introducing Helen, which makes Walkabout even sadder that he paid a woman to be called Helen, or a phone sex operator he found that was called Helen, and therefore he continued on with a paid phone relationship with her. Truly sad, and orientation is where we start to get the breadcrumbs of all of that. On the island we get a captivity story, which is fine, with the drama in the Swan being excellent. It has one of the biggest information dumps on the show, which is also the best scene of the episode.
Following in the footsteps of visionaries such as B.F. Skinner, imagine a large-scale communal research compound where scientists and freethinkers from around the globe could pursue research in meteorology, psychology, parapsychology, zoology, electromagnetism.
A 3-minute segment with pure exposition, and it's done brilliantly, with enough mystery and intrigue about this guy and his arm, the mysterious organization and the various cuts. Compared to the long exposition by Elvis in 316, this one is far more intriguing. I can't believe how much we learn about Lost and the island from this 3-minute segment. It's also an episode that could have delved deeper into a more pragmatic exploration and scientific solution, especially with Saeed there fixing the computer. We instead get a more faith-based emotional crux of the episode. 46. White Rabbit. The flashbacks are cut and simple and greatly portray Jack's relationship with his father from childhood to death. In the next seasons we're gonna fill in the blanks in between, but I think this episode does the trick really well. We're never confused by it and we get a good grip of their troubles, leaving room for more stories. Jack's search for his father and the camp's water problem is another example of Lost being able to tell survival stories with the entire cast, but Lost isn't your ordinary Lord of the Flies story. It is on the surface, especially here and this section of season 1, but as Locke tells Jack this episode, this is no ordinary place. That whole dialogue is the best scene of the episode, but also one of the best of the show, and it even uses the word magic for the first time in relation to the island. Top it off with a symmetry of Alice in Wonderland and Jack seeing his father on the island. You get a multi-layered episode.
I'm not a big believer in magic, but this place is different. It's special. The others don't want to talk about it because it scares them, but we all know it. We all feel it. Is your white rabbit a hallucination? Probably. But what if everything that happened here happened for a reason? What if this person that you're chasing is really here?
45. Something Nice Back Home. One of the most underrated episodes of the entire show. To explain my reasoning on why I love this episode, I'll cut in my analysis of it from the Lost Journeys. This episode is the most David Lynchian of all the episodes in season 4. This episode lets us breathe, and that is important. On rewatch, an episode like this prevents us from feeling exhausted, as well as giving us something different. There's a certain nightmarish quality all over this episode. I thought the story of Claire, Sawyer, Miles and Aaron actually fits well with the rest. The focus on Claire and Aaron being prevalent in the flash forwards, and some clever hints, such as Miles asking if Sawyer is her bigger brother, which also happens coincidentally in the same episode about her big brother, Jack. There's several cool transitions from dream to awakened state. The metaphorical connections between them is very fascinating. Let's begin at the start. The first flash forward comes in after Jack collapses and is unconscious, and the flash goes to him being asleep and then awakened. Many have pointed out that Jack has a shaved stomach in this flash forward, which is foreshadowed by Juliet doing this to him on the island in the past, once again showing the connections between the future and the past, not in a literal sense, but to tell a story. We then get this camera movement from the stars down to Jack and Aaron, referencing to the tune that is associated with Claire, Catch a Falling Star. The flash forward segment mentions Jack's father, and the painting behind Jack makes me think of the appearance of Christian Shepherd in the water way back in season 1. The next flash forward segment takes place at Saint Sebastian and Santa Rosa. In this one we get a glimpse of Christian Shepherd, and then it seems like the flash forward takes place from daytime to nighttime, and the closer we get to the nighttime sequences, the closer we get to Jack's broken mental state. From the awakened state to the nightmare, the dreamlike story ramps up. Later we have this amazing dialogue between Jack and Hurley, which in many ways is the opposite conversation of the finale.
Because we're dead. All of us. All the Oceanic Six, we're all dead.
I died too.
Living with Kate, taking care of Aaron. It all seems so perfect. Just like heaven.
Just because I'm happy doesn't mean that this isn't real, Hurley.
Are you real? I sure hope so. Yeah, I'm real. You're real. Everything that's ever happened to you is real. All those people in the church, they're all real too.
And the scene is set dressed in such a great way. It's very moody and different from the openness we see in earlier episodes at the mental institution. Here we have a keycard lock and barred windows, more like a prison for the mind. Even the lighting makes it look like there's 3 people here. Jack, Hurley and a ghost. There's something off-putting to me with that empty chair in between them. It has this dreamlike and atmospheric touch to it, and the question that arose from Through the Looking Glass, which was why did Jack's life fall completely apart, is much more complicated than many of the answers on Lost. 44. Raised by Another. Raised by Another is an impressive and creepy Claire episode. It's our first inclination that the dreams on the island might have some prophetic elements to them. I love the supernatural aspect of her flashbacks. Hurley is making a list of the people, another protector foreshadowing. All of that is astonishing and shows how much of an ensemble show this is. My only criticism is that it would have been much better if Ethan was introduced earlier in the show. Not that he should have been given as much screen time as the rest, but maybe have him join in on some of the projects, like helping out in the cave-in or volunteering with Locke in Walkabout, because he recognizes him as that disappearing man, the one Richard Alpert has met, and being with him and learning more about him would be great. As for the best scene, the runner-up would be her creepy dream, but the ending of the episode with everything cross-cutting between each other is better. Saeed coming back saying they are not alone, Charlie and Claire being alone in the jungle, Hurley rushing back saying he wasn't on the plane to Ethan's creepy glare. Hurley doesn't even say Ethan Rom was on the island before us or anything weird like that, and we don't need it. Ethan doesn't say anything to Claire and Charlie other than hello there, but the editing and the information that is given to us makes us realize what is going on. 43. The Substitute. I was disappointed by what Kate does, but luckily the next episode, The Substitute, is what really gave me hope for season 6. The cinematography is picturesque, a lot of stark colors and wonderful lighting. We explore the Man in Black as a character and not just as a monster, yet the journey is so riveting, taking Sawyer from a comfortable house, trekking through the jungle and into the belly of the beast. And even the Flash Sideways do a great job showcasing Locke's life post-death. The music during that exploration of the cave is spellbinding. It's the best scene of the episode, and you are just as fixed into every word Man in Black Locke is saying. 42. 3 minutes. An astonishing ramp up to the season 2 finale. I think the lighting is a little bit flat, but the story is exciting. It gives some insight into Walt, introduces some interesting others, tying up some storylines for the season, and does an almighty job. Overall terrific. The best scene being Michael's introduction to the decoy village, that blaring muted trumpet music and him registering all the information, the rock with a hole in it, and the door. #41. Lockdown. Another terrific Locke episode, but this one is an amazing Hatch storyline. Locke and Henry Gale are such a great duo. The build-up and intrigue of the Swan, almost making it alive in a sense, is what makes season 2 so rewatchable. The things that drag this down a little bit must be the poker game at the beach. The flashbacks are fine and necessary. Obviously, the best scene is a lockdown sequence with the most studied frame of Lost.
Please say something.
40. Across the Sea. The mythology in itself could probably land this episode in the top 20. I love the mythology here and the biblical nature of it all. It says so much about the show and its history and lore without sounding like heavy-handed exposition. I'm not a fan of the child acting though, and Allison Janney is a bit awkward with her Latin. I'm very happy they switched to English early on. My main criticism would probably be that Across the Sea should have been a trilogy. I'm talking about it a little bit more in this video series. I'm fully aware that this would not go well with ABC, the network that broadcasted Lost. 3 weeks without any of our main characters, having a historical deep dive into the creation of the island in the style of a Terrence Malick feature film, I would have loved that. And I think a lot of the hardcore fans would have loved that as well. Many were screaming to see the Egyptians building the statue of Taveret, or shedding more light to the temple. I honestly expected the temple to be brought up in Across the Sea. Some fans theorized that it was built on top of the heart of the island, and that the series finale would take place in the temple, since that whole structure kinda became forgotten by now, but it wasn't. So the history of the temple, the lighthouse, and Jacob's life on the island is just inferred through hieroglyphs, his tapestry, or his rug. So a Rome-like historical trilogy, I mean, I would love it, but I think a lot of the regular fans would hate it. I'm fine with what we got, and I love that Across the Sea can still fuel our imagination. As it stands out, Across the Sea was very polarizing amongst the fans. I enjoy it, but it doesn't crack the very best of the show. Michael Giacchino, he brings his A-game here with some terrific scores. It's tricky to say what is the best scene. Is it the revelations? The heart of the island? The birth of the smoke monster? The Adam and Eve revelation? One runner-up is the nighttime sequence when Jacob is granted protector. I think the heart of the island look so much better at night and the dialogue is profound. But I think that my favorite scene must be this one. We suddenly get that aha moment when we realized the light behind the wheel from the season 4 finale, There's No Place Like Home, is the same light as we see in the heart of the island. We connected it all, and it was so great to see the wheel again, and that the man in black was the engineer behind the whole thing. That's terrific. 39. Greatest Hits. What an emotional ride. I love the format of the flashbacks, doing several small scenes that are connected in a way, but not necessarily placed close to each other in the timeline. They're gonna do this format several times in the future. Heartbreaking journey for Charlie, as well as setting up the pieces for the finale.
We need to talk about Naomi's phone. Not now. If you're angry, I doubt it. You'll be happy to make a sincere apology later, but now we have a
Look, I'm a little bit busy right now, Said.
And I'm trying to get us off this island, Jack. I can't transmit using this phone because Danielle's distress signal is overriding the frequency. If you tell me where the radio tower is, I can go there, switch off your message, and call for help.
I'll be a third.
We'll take your gun, but you're not staying here. You're gonna lead everyone to the radio tower. Everyone.
Radio Town.
Now, if this doesn't work, we can't risk losing the chance of getting in contact with Naomi's boat. So everything has to happen at the same time. Charlie, you still up for a swim?
The best scene being that tearful realization of Charlie that he's about to do this last mission before his death. 38. This place is death. This episode is so packed. Sometimes I'm astounded by the amount of mythology that is here. Everything from Danielle's backstory to the temple wall, the connection to the monster, Charlotte's death and her telling about the backstory on the island, the well, Eloise Hawking is here, the orchid, and even the frozen wheel chamber with Christian Shepherd, yet it never loses focus, the main drive being the rampant intensity of the time flashes that are hurting our characters. The island is so colorful and alive in this episode. The best scene is Locke falling down and meeting Christian Shepherd, realizing he has to die to save the island. And you hear that wonderful locked out again melody, and Christian Shepherd saying he should say hello to his son before Locke is flashing away to Tunisia. 37. Jughead. Another great time flash episode. while this one is more connected to characters. This time the trio of Daniel, Desmond and Charles Widmore get to shine a lot in this episode. And even though the flash forward feel a little bit distant to the story on the island, I think they do an okay job being connected to the characters. We get a unique perspective into the early others, and I love that we spent the entire episode here than just cutting away after a few scenes. My favorite scene is Locke waltzing to the camp, saying he's sent there by Jacob, and the revelation that this young guy is Charles Widmore.
As said, put the gun down, Widmore.
Your name is Widmore? Charles Widmore?
What's it to you?
36. Meet Kevin Johnson. The best Michael episode. It has unfortunately gone down a little bit in my overall ranking from my original list back when the show was airing. It's mostly due to the brain puzzle of figuring out the whole timeline, especially since Michael has been gone for such a small time yet has accomplished so much. I mean, it takes like 2 weeks to get on a cargo ship to the US and they have to go to New York. Michael also has a downward spiral, gets suicidal, and then he's out of the hospital so quickly. I think the best scene is the one in the penthouse where Tom Friendly presents him a mission. It has a lot of flavors. It has the comedic touch of Tom and Arturo, but also the mystery of the island who can't let Michael die. I'm also a fan of how Lost is able to convey a lot of information without it feeling forced. The whole episode has a chiastic structure. I'll sandwich in some of my thoughts made in the Lost Journeys. It's a narrative motif, which means for our case that it has an onion ring composition. The writer Person Moore has studied this chiastic structure and figured out that the entire dialogue in this scene from season 1 has this type of fascinating structure. For this episode we have on the island, Locke's group at night. Then you have the freighter in the present, with a dramatic scene with Captain Galt. Then you have the suicide attempt. Then you have contact with Walt. Suicide attempt again in the alleyway. Then you have the scene with Tom. And then you get to the onion ring.
The island won't let you.
What'd you say?
No matter how bad you want to, no matter how many different ways you try, it won't happen.
In the middle of the episode, the island won't let you die, and the reveal of Flight 815 being found. This is the chiasmus, and we're going backwards from this point.
Did the bullet bounce off your skull, or did the gun just jam on you?
Back to Tom, then to the suicide attempt, then with contact with Walt, although this is reversed, it's Ben this time. Then you have the present with the freighter and the dramatic scene with Captain Galt, and then we go back to the outer layer of the onion, which is Locke's group, this time not during the night, but during the day, and this is not a quiet scene, but a hectic one. And we also get other things on each side of the onion, like the Libby appearances. 35. Everybody Loves Hugo. A fantastic late part episode of season 6, one of the best. This is how you do a Flash sideways story. It combines all the elements from Hurley's life and with an emotional ending, him getting that picnic with Libby. That is just the best scene in the episode, a scene we deserve to see. The on-island story is also pretty exciting. I really like how they used Michael in this scenario. There's so much energy in this episode, and all in all, quite adventurous. 34. Enter 7-7. Amazing combination of mythology and character. A bit of a waste of Miss Clue. Now I wonder if they really want to kill off a character, they should have just killed off Isabel, but I guess they needed someone from the Pala Fairy Dock. There's some great set decoration here. Mikhail was an awesome addition, an overall pretty exciting episode. The best scene being that dialogue between the characters while they are stitching up Saeed and exploring the station. A nice balance of character exploration but also exposition.
After the Cold War, after we lost the Cold War, my unit was decommissioned. I was dismissed from my life in the military. And after years of conducting unpleasant actions against our enemies, I found myself wanting to do something good.
33 in translation. This is a fantastic season 1 episode with strong character moments from all, with the major crux being the raft being set on fire. You don't need a monster or the others for intensity. You can create just as much through the characters, such as this moment at the beach.
Hands off.
You can feel the tension. There's conflicts and twists all over, and scene after scene shows us why Lost was so monumental. Either in the dramatic moments, like when the raft is set on fire and you have all these lines being thrown in the mix.
She was with me.
Walt! The Walt! Get back! Get back!
Ouch!
No, it's done.
Son, wait!
I'm gonna break his damn neck!
Michael!
Take it easy, man.
We don't know that Jin did this.
Are you serious? Sawyer? Shut up!
Jack, come on, we saw him on the beach this
That
morning.
doesn't mean that he tortured
Yeah, then
Raph.
who did, Jack?
Or the amazing display of acting in the flashbacks. There's so much that is said without even uttering a single Korean word. And in the end we have the fabulous scene of Jin meeting his father. Finally a character with a good parent figure. I love that ending montage. It's the best scene of the episode, with Jin coming in with bamboo, wanting to rebuild the raft, and then letting the camera travel with the characters, with Hurley who's listening to music, seeing Shannon and Saeed finally starting their relationship, and having a cinematic shot like this in the sunset. Without a doubt, the best Sun and Jin episode. 32. One of them. The Saeed origin story of how he became a torturer, guided by Kelvin Inman. I love the inclusion of Sam Austin, Kate's father, and then the introduction of Henry Gale on the island, which does a major shake-up in the drama down in the swamp.
Dude, it's just a tree frog.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Tell you what, you help me find that thing, you can keep right on ranch dipping.
There's a slow build-up in the entire episode, up until the countdown clock ends. This sequence is 10 out of 10, the metallic build-up and the hieroglyphs, best scene of the episode. LAX. An incredible two-part season premiere. I love that the Swan site was rebuilt as the Swan crater on location, instead of that weird CGI shot we saw earlier. It's an actual crater. I love that we get a good closure on Juliet and then move the plot forward, which is why I think the beginning of the end should have been rewritten a little bit and bringing the freighter folk earlier on. This one does so and bring in the temple. It's a great hook for the audience. I also think that the Flash Sideways has an interesting aura in this two-parter. It feels almost dreamlike, especially with the inclusion of Desmond and the fact that Christian Shepherd has gone missing. The best scene being the opening shot, mimicking the pilot, but with something that is off. Jack looking into the mirror as if this is Alice through the looking glass, and sense that something is odd. Number 30, The Man from Tallahassee. I remember I purposefully skipped school for this one. We all knew that this was the episode that would reveal how Locke ended up in the wheelchair, and for me it coincided with a gymnastic test, which included somersaulting over a vault and stuff like that. I said to myself, either I get to see how Locke becomes a paraplegic or see how I become a paraplegic. This episode is the culmination of the mission to rescue Jack. A wonderful clash between characters. It has some amazing Kate and Jack scenes, such as the one near the piano, and even better are the Ben and Locke scenes, hearing them talk together in Ben's house, which has a lot of gravitas. I'd say that's the best scene and illustrates how well these two actors work together.
If you had any idea what this place really was, you wouldn't be putting chicken in your refrigerator.
You've been here 80 days, John. I've been here my entire life. So how is it that you think you know this island better than I do?
Because you're in the wheelchair, and I'm not.
Also, there's a constant unnerving sense in the flashback, since we know how Locke will end up in the wheelchair will be portrayed in the episode at some point, so there's an intensity when Locke is near those windows, and it hits us. But I am happy that was not the cliffhanger ending. It needs to keep us glued in and shock us even more with a better twist. 29. Happily Ever After. This is the episode that did it for me in Season 6. I was quite disappointed by the Flash series up till now. They were not bad, all very tantalizing character stories that also brought back some familiar faces, but now we finally had someone questioning this reality. The only reason it's not higher on this list is because Flashes Before Your Eyes and The Constant came first and did this mind-bending Desmond adventure better. But this one deserves to be high on the list. The best scene here is when he meets Penny, which compared to a lot of scenes in the Flash series have great cinematography, and them touching each other which snaps Desmond out of his afterlife experience.
I'm Desmond.
Hi.
28th, The Brig. Amazing Locke episode, with the best acting by Josh Holloway. Even though we figure out pretty quickly that Anthony Cooper is the original Sawyer, most of the hardcore fans figured that out ages ago. The build-up is still magnificent. The best scene is when he's finally taking out the letter he's had in his pocket since he was a kid. He hands it to the perpetrator, which leads to Sawyer killing Anthony Cooper in the end. There's also some solid scenes at the beach camp with Naomi's phone, and the flashbacks are splendid. I think we get a bigger sense of the other's cult-like mentality in the flashbacks, especially with the idea of patricide in front of everyone else. 27. Solitary. Solitary was the first episode that was written after the writers knew they were in for the long run, because it was during the previous episode that the life of everyone working on the show changed, the show's premiere, which was rumored from insiders to be a failure that would garner a couple of million viewers and probably end lost on episode 13, had the opposite effect. The pilot was a smash hit. Solitary is chock full of foreshadowings and clues for the remaining long future of the show. It's a damn good side episode. Even though they crank it up with the yellow, the shots are still composed pretty well. The on-island action does a great job. Juxtaposing the fun golf course with the captivity with Rousseau, this also has the longest uninterrupted take on Lost, which is Rousseau telling her story on how she crashed on the island. My favorite scene of the entire episode, Mira Furlan might not have been French, but the acting was fantastic. The episode is a mythological beast with a great cliffhanger. 26. What a roller coaster of an opening. The best scene maybe in the entire show. And even though it dials back a little bit after that shocking intro, it doesn't take long before we start moving again. That's the great thing about this premiere, it doesn't drag. It needs to close down the storylines from the finale, address the hatch, what happened at the Black Pillar of Smoke and Arst's demise, and then continue on with the exploration of the hatch. That's what Locke says, he's tired of waiting. I love how it withholds some information that we learn and connect it with the next episode. But as soon as Jack walks down that gloomy corridor with the sound effects, it's so brilliant. Something that was lost in season 6. The temple was never as cool as going into the hatch for the very first time. I also think that the flashback story has a good energy to it. Going from the darkness on the island to the stark lighting in the ER was brilliant. And it has some great sequences such as the introduction of Desmond. 25. Maternity Leave. Claire's best episode. It ends a great run of episodes, many of which are quite dark in terms of lighting, themes and characters, starting all the way from the ending of the 23rd Psalm and to the end of this episode. I admire the creativity in the camera work and editing. There's some cool choices. I really like this odd camera movement. It's not a close-up of her face, but it moves towards her head because we are after all going into her mind. My favorite scene is the one where we finally get a tour of the place.
this way. Here we go. Over here.
It's so creepy, and this shot of the hall has a one-point perspective, which is very Kubrickian. For those of you who don't know about it, it's the mastermind director Stanley Kubrick, who was famous for shots like this. For once, we have a female-centric episode that isn't about rescuing Jack, although it is a plot related to Aaron, who is a boy, and still passes the Bechdel test several times, which is an improvement since there hasn't been a conversation between two females since What Kate Did several episodes ago. Maternity Leave is an episode that unravels all the answers yet still keeps a little bit more to discuss. The medical station is fascinating and creepy. 24. Cabin Fever. This episode follows the greatest hits model of telling someone's life, although instead of Locke's greatest memories, it is Locke's most island-tied flashbacks with Richard Alpert and Matthew Abaddon. He starts his life in a box, works in a box company, and in this season finale he ends up in a box. I love the adventure our characters are on to find the cabin. Lost is so good with scenes in the dark. This one really captures that island magic we all love. The best scene is in the flashbacks though. Richard Alpert visiting a young Locke. That creepy drawing of the monster as well as the test. 23. Even though Locke and Ben had some astronomical on-screen scenes, Locke had the same with Echo, and this one is that one adventure we were desperately wanting them to be on. I love everything that has to do with dreams and visions that goes for all media, and this one is so rooted in dreams and how the island communicates with these characters who are so in tune with the island already. The best scene here is Echo and Locke going into the Pearl Station and exploring it together, something we've wanted them to do the entire season. (22) Expose. Yes, I'm not joking, I love this episode. And it's not because I want to be a contrarian. Even when it aired in 2007, I had the lowest expectations of all. I anticipated the worst episode of the entire show, since I hated Nikki and Paolo. Horrible characters. So I was so pleasantly surprised that I became so let down by the time we got to Left Behind, to the Kate-centric episode that I have very low on my list. Expose was so intelligently written and so damn funny and deserve a lot of praise. There's not even a previously on Lost for this one.
The teaser of that show is Nikki basically comes staggering out of the jungle and she collapses and Hurley says, "Oh my God, it's Nikki," and then Sawyer goes, "Who the hell is Nikki?" And, so,
that was a very wink to the audience.
But we broke the fourth wall because logistically speaking, they would all know each other's names, but by Sawyer acknowledging, I also do not like these characters, suddenly it made it okay.
Expose is the episode of Lost that feels like it exists outside of Lost. The story operates on multiple levels at once, while being a self-contained drama like a Twilight Zone episode. It has a fantastic sense of wit. Just from the very first flashback, we see how different everything is.
No. That's the money for the orphanage. That means, Mr. Lashad, you're the Cobra.
Sorry, baby, it's just business.
All this time it was you.
Pretty and smart. What a shame.
Razzle dazzle!
The music is almost like a sly reference to the types of show that popularized Oahu, Hawaii as a filming location before Lost. Shows like Magnum P.I. and Hawaii Five-0. Fast-paced, somewhat cheesy television shows about wiping out crime on a colorful island, and the type of music is very reminiscent of those types of crime shows in general. Everything from the goofy sound effect you hear in old movies,
Razzle dazzle!
to this poster over here. They hired a well-known actor, Billy D. Williams, and cast him to play himself, and that's the only time it happens on the show. And it's because the entire episode is a big behind-the-scenes episode. Nikki getting killed here but being alive in real life is a foreshadowing to the island events. And then we have the second longest camera shot on the show, the longest being solitary. And this is my favorite scene of the entire episode. starting off in the strip club, then having this goofy music, and then the twist about it being a TV show, and then the long camera shot. Because the thing is that a TV show, it's edited, and real life isn't. So this camera shot is doing the same thing as Birdman did many years later. A movie is edited, but a theater play is not. It all goes in real time. Characters go in and out all the time. So this scene is so meta that even the clapper has the name Stephen Williams, which is the director of the TV show Exposé, as well as the episode Exposé. Another fun fact about this scene is that this is shot at the Hawaiian Film Studio, meaning that all of these sets in the background here are interior sets of the barracks houses. The first cut comes when they are outside of the Hawaiian Film Studio, and this is all CGI.
Look, I'm just a guest star. We all know what happens to guest stars.
This line fits really well with the TV industry, but it also reminds us that this is not necessarily the case for Lost. Lost subverts it, often getting guest actors, and then, if the writers and audience like them, they find a way to keep them on the show. Like Michael Emerson and Henry Ian Cusack being two very good examples. Often, guest actors appear multiple times after their character is dead. And I'd say it's one of the most rewatchable episodes in the entire show, which ironically is an episode a lot of fans skip. Sawyer is even reading an Agatha Christie novel on the beach. The attention to detail is spot on. I advise you to check out my Lost Journeys video, this one over here, to see more of my thoughts and analysis about this incredibly awesome episode, and maybe you'll see it a little bit different.
Now, in this scene, Sawyer is reading Evil Under the Sun by Agatha Christie.
I don't have the guns.
It was our sort of shout out to Agatha Christie and these kind of noir mysteries, and we just thought it would be a fun little thing to have Sawyer reading that while in the midst of his own murder mystery on an island.
21. La Flor, the best Sawyer episode. We finally saw the four-toed statue after waiting 33 months. It's remarkable that despite hitting us with such a mythological reveal, beginning with the four-toed statue, the best thing about the episode comes after this. The emotional connection to the characters in this 3-year gap. It's incredible that they take the bold choice of confirming Juliet and Sawyer as a couple within the same episode. And then you have a lot of the fun scenes with Horace and Sawyer, as well as Daniel seeing Charlotte, or finally hearing how fluent Jin is in speaking English. But for me, the best scene is not the reveal of the statue, but Sawyer talking to Richard. It's an incredibly well told story, both in 1974 and 1977, in the Dharma heydays. We see Sawyer as his smartest and most cunning, with the rest of the characters working together quite well. Number 20.
We hunt.
Walkabout. A classic. People who weren't entirely sold on Lost during the pilot was captivated by Walkabout. It's one of the crowning examples of why Lost can't be told chronologically, since the episodes are like a symphony of past and present. They complement each other. They are all part of the same narrative. Locke's sad life as a desk drone that culminates in him being denied a walkabout tour, to Locke finally regaining his sensation in his feet, and in the end, seeing his wheelchair in front of the burning fuselage. The best scene here is technically two that are intercut with each other. Locke yelling at a travel agent and him waking up on the island, joyous of this miracle that happened. The episode is a crowning achievement in Lost. 19. One of Us. One of the best female characters on the show has an amazing episode with tons of characters. Season 3 has been very split, with people on Hyder Island and Jack being at the barracks. Now everyone's back at the camp, and it all feels like an ensemble piece again. And there's a big crisis to be solved. There's so much room for all the characters, a great story that ties in so many plot lines from the past seasons, both in the present and the flashbacks. There's a lot of creativity in the locations, and there's loads of twists and turns, especially towards the end. The flashbacks have an emotional culmination though. This is the best scene. For the first time we see how the world has responded to Flight 815's disappearance, but also the powerful video recording of Juliet's sister being happy, playing with her son Julian. That scene gets to you. 18. Do No Harm. You've probably gotten tired of me talking about the ensemble piece by now, but I think that's one of the things Lost does better than others. And this episode is so king size in it. They even managed to include Michael, who does not technically need to be there, but just a quick comment about the cargo container. Everyone's on a mission, things are going in all directions, in a serious medical drama on the island. The various team-ups, such as Jin being with Claire, or Sun being Jack's medical assistant. There's a lot of pieces all around the episode. The flashbacks are decent, I think they say a lot about Jack's character, and I particularly love this scene, Crystal Blue Pool, direct opposite of the one Jack will be sitting in at the end of the series. And that ending montage, that's the best scene. Fading in with baby Aaron, and seeing how every character comes up to them at sunrise. Seeing it all in slow motion, Jack being so broken after what happened, and then having Shannon crying over Boone alone in the caves, with Michael Giacchino being the only thing that we hear. You really feel the toll of that death. 17, Dead is Dead. What an adventure. It's so rooted in Egyptian mythology that the entire episode has been given a brown filter. I don't mind it that much, but this is a fantastic episode with a great adventure. The flashbacks being rooted around Alex gives us also some clues about the island's past. I never imagined us getting the scene of the abduction of Alex. Top-notch scene, but the best scene is without a doubt Ben entering the summoning chamber. One of the grandest pieces of mythology we got. This scene underneath the temple is better than any scene above in the temple courtyard or the pool room. And it also ends with a character, Alex. Number 16, Numbers. What a magnificent episode. It's probably the funniest in the show, yet also deeply rooted in island mythology. Originally, the backstory of Hurley was much weaker, him being a successful repo man. I'm happy they waited a little bit with Hurley's backstory. There's so much more weight to it by having it towards the end of the first season. They turned it into something else, a lottery winner who feels like he's cursed by the numbers, and then again, tying it to the island was simply brilliant. This flashback episode really felt like a breath of fresh air in season 1. And regarding the numbers, I honestly think that everything we need to know about the secret of the numbers can be studied simply out of this episode. That's the thing with Lost. You can get a lot out of very little. You don't need heavy-handed lore. A simple sentence by Danielle, or a specific shot, or a color, or a music cue could say much more than what Alvar Hanso tells us in the Lost experience. The B-plot is nice. I enjoy the fatherly tie John Locke becomes to Claire, which will be further developed in season 2. And it's a contrast to that scary image of him in Claire's dream. The warm presence is directly contrasted to how the Man in Black uses the image of John Locke and convinces Claire to be part of his troop in the final season. I love the trek to the cable. It's so much fun. The banter between the characters, it's so much more different than Jack, Locke, Kate and Sawyer. This is so much more fun. The rope bridge is our first indication of an ancient civilization on the island. I love that shot. There's so much out of this sequence. You can just imagine yourself on the island 500 years ago with potentially a Mayan civilization. And the numbers is a glue between Hurley and the island throughout this episode, and that is so fantastically written. The best scene for me is the eerie ending, the very, very unusual shot of a scene with no characters. Nobody is at the hatch, yet the camera crawls through the jungle and zooms in on the numbers being there. It's only us, the spectator, and the hatch. (15) The Incident. You might be surprised that you have a season finale as low as 15 on a list. Shouldn't all of the finales be in the top 10? Well, 15th place is still extremely good. All of the episodes I'm talking about now are masterpieces. Everything surrounding Jacob here is astounding. There's several reasons why it's my least favorite. One of them being that every one of us online knew that the whole bomb idea would be a paradox. Faraday's notion that they can change it all by negating the energy at the Swan, so that the Swan is never built, is a plan I never liked. That's impossible because the entire chain of events had to happen, so that Flight 815 crashed there, and Daniel had to come on the freighter, which in turn would move the island and make them come to the past. If they landed in LAX, safe and sound, who was there in 1977 to prevent the building of the computer and the countdown timer, the one that Desmond failed to push. All of us knew it was a paradox, so we were going into the finale with two notions. One being that they will fail to detonate it, or two, being that they will succeed, but in doing so they will create an entirely new, different, alternate timeline. And none of us want that, since we have so many stories we care about from the original one. So the whole mission is not as engaging for us, because either they fail or they do something that we don't want them to do. Additionally, we have the entire storyline in the future, as in 2007, that feels quite detached to the hydrogen bomb plan. We are quite invested in it, and the whole bomb plan kind of messes it up for us. A great finale ties things together, and this one is a bit all over the place, because we're starting to wonder if we should really care about the things in 2007, because if they are successful with the bomb plan, then why does it all matter? But I truly like the things in 2007. There's a lot of great scenes here and good lines being tossed around. I love the music here, love the locations. But there's some things, like bringing up elements that will not get a resolution later on, like Charlie's DS ring. There's some flip-flopping for certain characters, and that random Juliet flashback that totally does not look like it took place in the past, with Juliet dressing up like she was born in 1997.
I changed my mind when I saw you look at her. Don't.
I think this finale could have bring a resolution to the cabin, since we don't see it again. A lot of finales or episodes on Lost burn or destroy something after we know what it is. The Black Rock was exploded after Alba Eternal. The Swan was destroyed after we learned everything about the countdown timer and so on. The characters burned the Beechcraft after we learned its origin. If anything, Ilana's flashback should have taken place at the cabin back in the day in a much more pristine way, with her and Jacob being there, maybe giving some hints about the man in black looming in the background, trying to take over the cabin, or something like that. Because I think it's obvious that this scene of Ilana approaching the cabin was written there for a payoff in Season 6. Because in Season 6 we were supposed to get an Ilana flashback about her being the daughter of Jacob. So I think it's likely that she was at the cabin as a child or a teenager. But since this backstory never came to fruition, the cabin feels a little bit unfulfilled. Because even though the hardcore Lost fans knew that it was the man in black in the cabin, which is also confirmed by Ilana's line.
What happened?
He isn't there. Hasn't been in a long time. Someone else has been using it.
And it's also implied in this scene.
What happened that day at the cabin? When you first took me to meet Jacob?
Well, you clearly already know that I was talking to an empty chair, John. That I was pretending.
Which is not to say that I wasn't as surprised as you were when things started flying around in the room.
I still see a lot of fans being a little bit confused about how Ilana knows about the cabin and about the hairy looking man who was sitting in that chair and how it moved and so on. But I really like the ambiguity of it all. I like the ambiguity of the cabin moving. I've done a video on it where I talk about it more in great detail. Check it out if you want to. And it's definitely what gives it its creepy atmosphere. But maybe it would be wise to get the regular viewers on speed of things. If the writers knew that they wouldn't have time to give Ilana backstory the next season, I think the cabin would get a better resolution in Season 5. After all, it ended up being one of those pesky things people complained about online. And since it was burned in this episode, people chalked it up as it not being important anymore. Also, back to the incident. As much as I like the Swan side, I think the choreography of the action sequences in other episodes are much better. And also I'm a little bit confused about the whole side, because in my honest opinion, they should have completed building parts of the Swan already. Wouldn't it be awesome if it looked like this instead? Like this giant, enormous area that is been dug out of the rock wall. Here it is, the Swan site, the Swan laboratory, where they are supposed to study electromagnetism. Here the computer dome before they install the computer and the timer. And that would tie it more broadly with what Marvin Candle said in the orientation film.
The Station 3 was originally constructed as a laboratory where scientists could work to understand the unique electromagnetic fluctuations emanating from this sector of the island. Not long after the experiments began, however, there was an incident.
So as you see, here's the incident site, and they would like cement the whole area after the incident. So that would greatly tie it to season 2 when Jack walks past the wall and the key is attracted to the electromagnet. Because once again, it all feels a little bit detached from each other. So those are the negatives. But that being said, the incident is a fantastic finale, and compared to other finales on other TV shows, this one blows them out of the water, no doubt about it. I love every single Jacob appearance. It's just that the finale is the weakest amongst the 6 Lost finales. The best scene? Well, that's easy, that's the opening scene. It hits us with so many revelations and has one of the most profound conversations on the show. First, it gives us a little bit of a glimpse into an ancient world, then the Black Rock, and then you have the Jacob reveal, and at the end we get a majestic statue reveal. I was so blown away. Number 14. The Constant. It is the fan favorite, but for me it is slightly overrated. 14th place is still pretty damn amazing. I love everything about this episode, with the best scene obviously being the phone call at the end. It's the one that pulled the heartstrings on every single Lost fan around the globe, cementing this hour as one of the most critically acclaimed episodes of the entire series, and that's impressive, with inventive editing and amazing balance between mythology and romance. It always like balances it pretty well, a little bit of mythology, then a little bit of drama.
Hey, how did this happen to you?
We were anchored here, waiting for our orders.
I just think that the rest on my list are simply a little bit better. I don't have much to complain. It's simply that in the top 15 of the entire show, you just have to put things above another, and I have to be subjective about it, and therefore The Constant ends up on a 14th place. However, this episode alone has the craziest and most fun editing in the entire show.
You okay?
13. Flashes before your eyes. I didn't plan for it, but funny enough, this Desmond episode captured this spot right above The Constant. It's just a tiny bit better in my opinion. Even though it's very hard to beat the Desmond and Penny phone call, I think that in general, the whole thing, this episode was far more intriguing and introduced the time travel splendidly, tying it directly to the energy underneath the island. There's a heroic journey here with someone being thrown into this world and then trying to figure it out and then meeting a master in it. The guts it took for the writers to finally confirm time travel being a key part of Lost, and then to pull it off without it feeling cheesy or too out there, is just damn magnificent. The editing in The Constant is better, but there is an atmosphere here that is just more my taste, particularly after the introduction of Miss Hawking being introduced like an oracle in a shop filled with clocks, and how she knows the different outcomes of that man's destiny is quite interesting. The scene with Widmore, incredibly well written. When Desmond tells his friend Donovan everything about the island, that's a cool thing, because in my opinion, this is why Penelope was sure that Desmond didn't die out at sea and why she established that tracking station. Donovan, a good friend of Desmond, likely sought out Penelope and told her that Desmond is alive on an island with an electromagnetic force.
Are you bloody insane?
Just tell me if it's possible.
Which part? The island full of mysterious hatches, or the computer which keeps the world from ending?
No, look. Forget you're my best mate, right?
As a physicist, is it possible that I've somehow managed to go back in time and I'm now living my life over again?
You also have the way they transformed Hawaii into London. That's tons of great detail here. The best scene being Desmond waking up in the flat, the show making us think he's covered in blood with his Dharma jumpsuit on, and the slow realization that he has traveled back in time. I was so blown away.
Oh my God. Des, are you all right? Stay there. Hang on. I'm just getting ice.
Number 12, Confirmed Dead. As soon as I saw this episode, I immediately went to the forums and yelled about why wasn't this aired as the season premiere. It's amazing that some episodes need an entire episode to say something about one character. This one just needed one flashback sequence per character and the job was done. It's an excellent introduction to 4 newcomers, all tied around the same event. What a colorful cast! Some amazing locations both on the island, such as this lake over here, which was introduced for the first time on the show here, but also the quarry to produce this amazing Tunisian sequence. It's probably my favorite scene here. It also shows the interest of the island from outsiders, that it has affected things outside of its beaches and sent a polar bear to the desert. The episode gives such a grander scope to the disappearance of Flight 815 as well as this mysterious island. There's a lot of mythology, but also some great character scenes. Another thing I loved is how it was the perfect bridge for us who played Find 815 during the winter break. The entire opening scene of this episode was a continuation of that. So everything about Confirmed Dead was so rewarding for the hardcore Lost fans. A lot of answers, a lot of mysteries, a lot of characters. It's a perfect mix. Number 11, the 23rd Psalm. It's the best non-finale episode of Season 2, Echo's search for the Nigerian Dirk plane. We have a lot of daddy issues or relationship dramas, so being thrown into the harsh world in Nigeria was a breath of fresh air. The life of a drug lord and his relationship to his brother Fadeyemi was new to us. The 23rd Psalm is the perfect example of executing a great character story with a great mythology and an answer to a big mystery. Instead of the Beechcraft being a random plane that just wound up on the island, it serves as a big character moment for Echo, when his brother was yanked into the plane after being shot, while he was kicked out and the military believing him being a priest. Astounding story with so many layers. Not only does it connect well with the story of Charlie and Liam, but it also works quite well with Man in Black and his brothers, 2 brothers with 2 different people representing each side of the scale. One of them left the group as a child, the other one stayed. You have the religious aspect, the importance of the Virgin Mary, a figure that reappears in the show, and you also have a mispronunciation of the 23rd Psalm at the end of this episode, which fits even more thematically, the shadow of the Valley of Death. This could also tie it to the Man in Black, and the amazing scene we had in this episode, which was the best scene, Echo staring down the monster. Number 10, There's No Place Like Home. We have a new finale in the mix, and we're in the top 10 of the show, the very best. All 3 parts of it make up a fantastic finale that both summarizes the Oceanic 6 immediate rescue and the aftermath, but also the events in late 2007 regarding Jeremy Bentham. It's a little bit fun that they call him Jeremy Bentham just for the audience, and then when it's revealed, everyone just starts calling him Locke again. It's also like the incident, there's a lot of characters all over the place, but it's not as messy and has a better progression, separating them in various places but making sure that the Oceanic 6 are together in the end. I particularly enjoy the various climaxes of the last part. The freighter explosion feels like it could be at the end of the episode, but then we have Ben moving the island, which could also feel like the end of the finale. There's an exciting structure here. Even though we know that these people on the helicopter will become the Oceanic 6, we're still not sure how the final pieces will play part, and then it all connects together in the end. It's a marvelous finale of an action season. There's some questionable VFX choices here, and the best scene of the entire finale is the one that was butchered on the DVD, the freighter explosion. There's a tremendous build-up in the music, and since we know that Jin is not one of the Oceanic 6, we have an inkling that he's not gonna make it, and we're just waiting for the inevitable. That whole build-up, the Oceanic 6 leaving the place, and then seeing the freighter explosion and Sun screaming, you feel it in your gut. Number 9, The End. The series finale of Lost is simply a perfect emotional culmination. The revelation of the Flash Sideways made my heart soar and tied everything much better than any alternate reality or dimension ever would. It's an epic ending. There's a couple of things I would have done differently, and also a lot of the outdoor scenes have that flat and bleak lighting I don't like, but it's an outstanding achievement that manages to reference and tie in so much of the entire show into one finale. Picking the best scene here is just so damn hard. There's so many scenes to choose. But the scene at the coffin is so vital to the philosophy of the show. It's probably the best lit scene in the entire Flash Sideways. Here with the various colors of the stained glass illuminating the room, the set decoration with all the different religions, and in the middle you have the magic box. And when Jack touches it, he remembers it all. It goes back to the eye-opening in the very first episode, and the dialogue between him and Christian is so well written. Number 8. The Shape of Things to Come. A tour de force episode with some amazing heights that is never topped again. First of all, how breathtaking isn't the transformation of Hawaii into Tunisia and Iraq? I would argue that this is the best transformation Lost has ever pulled in all 6 seasons. The attention to detail is astounding, and for me, a great movie or TV show is one that successfully pulls off many different visual tricks to convey its magic. In the beginning, a still image of Cocoa Head Crater is almost like a matte painting, and in front of it you have digitally created sand dunes, and then you have the quarry where Ben is, and a filter to create a warm Sahara atmosphere, and some costume design. It's like when in Lord of the Rings you had VFX, a matte painting, a miniature, and a set all in the same frame. And then we're thrown into Tikrit with a picturesque production design. You can pretty much smell the Arabic scent, and to top it off, they have a scene in London at the end. As much as I love the conflict between Jacob and the Man in Black, I would say that none of those scenes can top this chilling dialogue between Widmore and Ben. Both in what they say to each other, but also the way it was shot. This is the best scene in the entire episode, and it does not involve any explosions, island mythology, smoke monster, or death. It's just 2 men talking, and it's completely riveting.
That island's mine, Benjamin. It always was. It will be again.
But you'll never find it.
Then I suppose the hunt is on for both of us.
I suppose it is. Sleep tight, Charles.
On the island we get a thrilling action episode. It has one of the best smoke monster appearances ever, one of the most horrifying deaths, the most action-packed sequence. I love it. Number 7. The Pilot. It is a crowning achievement. It gives a little bit of a glimpse into every single character, even introducing stuff that will play a part later, if the show is successful and picked up. A tour de force cinematic masterpiece. People still call it one of the best pilots in TV history, and it shows. It's amazing that something that looks as beautiful as this came out in 2004, frame after frame after frame. It all looks gorgeous, but most importantly, it's a character story. The camera stops at every single character, gives us a little glimpse. And sometimes you don't need extravagance to suggest an emotion or sense of scale. You can just have Charlie and Kate walking to this ominous music and seeing this enormous tree on the ground, suggesting that the monster knocked it down even though it was just a tree that was there that the crew found. There's a terrific sense of adventure, and all the time I was watching it for the first time, I kept thinking that this is just like a big blockbuster movie. Is this really a TV show? And as soon as that ending came, I was hooked. It shows how much of a character-driven mystery show it all is, with Saeed being the smart one to calculate the transmission duration, Sawyer being a jackass, or the stupid blonde girl being the only one there to help them translate the message. That was a fun surprise. It's a show that shows us stereotypical characters and give them much more complex character traits, and surprises us, something it will do for the next 6 seasons. And the best scene is, of course, this one.
It's been playing over and over for 16 years.
Someone else stranded here?
Maybe they came for them.
Someone came. Why is it still playing?
Guys, where are we?
Number 6. Deus Ex Machina. That episode represents so much. Just the beginning of the episode, intentional or not, is a great foreshadowing to the entire game of Lost. And of course, Locke's mother stands by and observes while Locke tells the rules. John Locke's journey to what he believes is the answer to opening the hatch, looking for the key to the island, is so marvelous. His journey in this episode is very spiritual, it's very religious, and at the end the island shows him the answer, even though it's simply a switch at the end of a shaft that starts a light, but metaphorically speaking, for him it represents the light. There's some good costume choices, with Locke starting with a fresh, clean, white shirt being drenched in blood at the end of the episode. There's a lot of symbolism with the hatch as a doorway to a higher purpose. The hatch is closed, like it rejects John, it won't let him come in, not yet, but still the hatch represented the passage or portal into the new world. We went from the light to the darkness, as season 2 was the psychological season that brought the worst in him, and hatches and doors are always symbols of transition and metamorphosis in literature. The flashbacks deals with the Virgin Mary. The virgin birth is the union between the divine and the human, and considering Emily, she was 15 when she got John, I wouldn't rule out the fact that she probably was a virgin when she hooked up with Anthony Cooper. And in the beginning of the episode, Locke's mother claims John was immaculately conceived. Well, turns out she was crazy and admitted to Santa Rosa, but this is a fun connection between Jacob and the Man in Black, going through a similar thing with a mother who was crazy. And Man in Black and his brother, they probably thought that they were too immaculately conceived, considering there was no father around. And the Virgin Mary comes up once more in the plane, but this time with Heron inside. Locke's almost messianic story in this episode, his struggle both on the island and in the flashbacks, really makes this episode for me. The experience through the wild vistas of the island, full of vibrant green colors, going through nature, the sovereign of all things spiritual, ending it at this point is so transformative. Even though what I said are themes heavily explored in Across the Sea, I think Deus Ex Machina just does it much better. We've now come to top 5, and now I have 2 finales here, both of whom I like pretty much equally. But for the sake of a list, I need to place one slightly above the other. In my ranking, we've got this one.
We were not supposed to leave.
Yes, we were.
It's the most monumental twist of the show. It's the episode that turns our preconceived notion on what the Lost narrative is upside down. On the island, it's a story we've been wanting to see since the pilot, our survivors getting in touch with someone to come and rescue them. It's the most epic adventure in the entire show. But there is some things to pick on, like there's around 20 missing survivors on their trek to the radio tower, including guest stars like Sullivan and Frogurt, and you also have the odd choice of flipping the way they're trekking. And I also think that the flash forward get slightly redundant. I mean, they have to be there for the entire episode so the twist will work, so they also have to keep tricking us into believing that this is a flashback, hence why Jack says this.
I'll tell you what, you do this. You get my father down here. Get him down here right now. And if I'm drunker than he is, you can fire me.
And I understand and appreciate that they did that. The whole finale is a grandiose conclusion to a lot of storylines in season 3, with a heartbreaking ending for Charlie and one scene, the best scene, being what changed it all for Lost.
We have to go back!
Number 4, Live Together, Die Alone. So the other finale that I have slightly above is Live Together, Die Alone, which might come as a surprise to you. I know that a lot of people prefer There's No Place Like Home or The Incident above this one, but I think there's a fantastic symbiosis between the flashbacks and the on-island story. It's a season finale that summarizes everything in the season, even details like the missing cuts of the orientation film, the blaster map, Kelvin, the sickness, and so on, and the conclusion with the magnetism is more effectful now than in The Incident, because in The Incident we had already seen it before. This one came as a surprise. The finale manages to create some amazing character moments, like that extremely dark scene of Desmond opening our mutual friend, contemplating suicide since he believes he has destroyed the world, which connects to this beautiful moment from Deus Ex Machina. I would give that one the best scene stamp, since it's a scene that enhances one of the most iconic moments from season 1. And I love when Lost connected their storylines and characters, and this is a finale that does that. It's a finale that gives a lot of room to everyone. Saeed being a Muslim, Sun's pregnancy, that small map Locke drew a couple of episodes ago, and even gives some glimpses into the island's distant past.
I don't know what is more disquieting. The fact that the rest of the statue is missing, or that it has 4 toes.
The reveal of a 4-toed statue suddenly gave us that framework that the story of Lost could span a couple of thousands of years, and that could also connect the entirety of Live Together Die Alone to Homer's Odyssey, an epic from ancient Greece, because this episode introduced us to Penelope in one of the most fan-favorite love stories on Lost. I mean, everyone loves the Constant, everyone loves Penny and Desmond, and the seed to that story comes from this finale. The Odyssey is about a heroic king who gets lost at sea, trapped on an island.
Where am I? You are safe.
I need water.
Bring him water.
I need a ship.
There are none here. No one comes or goes from my island.
While his loved one by the name of Penelope is still back home, other people are competing for her hand in marriage, while he must face trials. And I love that small detail at the end of this episode that Penelope didn't marry. She was still waiting for Desmond. She still went by the name of Miss Widmore. The whole thing is a story about endurance, and this is highlighted in all of Desmond's flashbacks, but also the various storylines. Michael has the love for his son and he does everything he needs to do to be reunited with him, so that he too can escape the island. And the story of devotion and belief is shown throughout some amazing scenes in The Swan with that stark monochromatic lighting. Every single storyline here worked perfectly together and serves us with many twists and turns, including one of the biggest in the show. It's a finale that has many foreshadowings to the heart of the island, and the hieroglyphs of the Swan meaning underworld. Michael's plan is a bit flimsy, and this is the weakest scene in the finale, this revelation here at the creek. There's too many emotions that are squandered and not fully developed here, hence why it doesn't get the top spot on the list. But just comparing it with other season finales, I find less to complain about here than with others, and compared with the season 3 finale, it does a slightly better job summarizing and concluding season 2. All in all, this finale is fantastic.
All we really need to survive is one person who truly loves us. And you have her. I will wait for you. Always. I love you.
I love you, Penny.
Number 3. The Man Behind the Curtain. This awesome episode is one of the best mythology-driven episodes of the entire show. The entire episode is like a giant box of candies, scene after scene. This was one of the most hyped episodes of the later part of season 3. Fans assumed that the upcoming Ben-centric episode would be the season finale and was surprised when it turned out it wasn't. Although this is yet another story of a main character and their bad daddy issues, I think there's a different texture to this whole thing being on the island, giving our first glimpse into the heydays of the Dharma Initiative. We get a very complicated character through young Ben, one with a love story that mimics the on-island love story of Carl and Alex. Even their flashbacks do a terrific job connecting it with the entirety of season 3. I honestly think it does a slightly better job than Through the Looking Glass as being a culmination of season 3 as a whole, the season of the others. Both in small details like the Sonic fence, Roger Workman, why the others are at the barracks, and Ben's obsession with rabbits, but also the larger mythological tentpoles, hinting at the others as a big cult. I think this is my most rewatched episode of season 3, and even for the fans it has some sequences that were studied immensely, such as the whispers or that scene at the cabin. One thing that people keep pointing out as a blooper, that Portland here should be covered in snow since Ben's birthday is in December, but couldn't this be Portland, Tennessee? Anyway, Just like Live Together Die Alone, it hints at something in the past with the volcano, but also decides to center it all around a fantastic child performance. We've grown so attached to Michael Emerson that I think it was a bold choice for the writers to do an entire flashback story without him. Michael Emerson is only in the last sequence, and there's a lot of bad child performances out there, so that Sterling Bowman managed to give a different layer of humanity and portraying a lost soul who has been tormented by his own father was so heartbreaking to see. It's a great study of parental abuse. The Man Behind the Curtain is a spectacular character story and have some grander fingerprint to the bigger picture of Lost, like the meeting with Richard Alpert.
What's interesting here is that Alpert seems so particularly focused on the fact that Ben's mother died off the island and he saw her here. That piece of information seems so significant to him.
Although we wanted to make it very clear that it wasn't at all a surprise to Alpert, and that was what really engaged Ben. That, basically, this is a piece of information that if he told anyone in the Dharma Initiative, they would be immensely skeptical that he could actually have seen a vision of his mother, whereas Alpert's attitude is one of kind of concern and of, trying to find out some more facts about it.
And even on the beach camp, we have some terrific ensemble pieces here, with everything moving towards the season finale. And then we get that entry into the something folklore regarding the cabin. As much as I like the scientific part of Lost, I think the show is amazing in the supernatural genre. The scary sequence in the entire show, and what I would put as the best scene, would be Locke and Ben entering that cabin. So creepy, and the writers turning the identity in the cabin into this invisible being who shook the entire place was genius. Number 2. Abaterno, the best single episode of the entire show. When Abaterno aired, I ended up writing a 12,000 word analysis, the longest I had done in Norwegian, with a headliner, "I have never felt a Lost episode being so cinematic since the pilot." With the pilot having the excitement of a Spielberg film, combined with many other influences, this episode was like a Spanish epic with a blockbuster budget. At least that was my immediate reaction, a giddy 19-year-old nerd who was completely blown away. Seeing Richard in prison was like seeing Edmond Dantes imprisoned in The Count of Monte Cristo. Seeing Richard Alpert walk by the beach towards the statue was like watching Charlton Heston walking along the beach towards the statue in Planet of the Apes. Jonas Whitfield and some of the boat scenes reminded me of Master and Commander. Even Michael Giacchino's music evokes those romantic scores from biblical epics. Considering I've given a low rating to both Dr. Linus and Recon, episode 7 and 8, this one being episode 9, the jumping quality from those episodes to this one is like night and day. Many people prefer The Constant in their top 3, and I don't blame them. All the episodes in my top 15 could probably change order, including The Constant, depending on my mood and age, but that episode is a perfect balance between romance and mythology. Abaterno has a perfect balance as well between romance and mythology, but the mythology here isn't about the freighter or the barrier between the island and the ocean around it, but the true story of the Black Rock, the statue of Tavaret, and the secrets of the island. Abaterno is carrying 6 seasons of mythology on their shoulders. It has to pay off mysteries that were introduced in the pilot, considering that the Black Rock was mentioned in Rousseau's distress signal, and it hits a home run. Even fans felt like the conversation between Ricardo and Jacob talking about the island was better than Mother explaining it in Across the Sea. The dialogue here, but also with the Man in Black, has that same profound feeling we got when Locke talked about the Eye of the Island in season 1. Everything feels so grand and magical in this episode. The visual effects are the best of season 6, the production design is quite spectacular, like when they built this Black Rock rig for the storm sequence.
They built another one out here on hydraulics to simulate the ocean. So we'll do a scene in here where they move it with hydraulics, and I do a scene with Ignacio.
Where are you?
Even the cinematography has taken a big leap. Remember how I talked about the brightness of the temple hallways? Now we've got stark contrast. The blacks are black. like when Ricardo enters his home and it is illuminated solely by the very few light sources inside his home that separates it from a regular TV. Having Ricardo actually speaking Spanish and the struggles of Ricardo are so real. In Tenerife, he's meeting a man of science and a man of faith, both dressed in black and white, yet both of them are flawed characters, evil characters that provide no salvation. And on the island, he does his penance and struggle, both literally in the Black Rock but also through his many years as a servant for Jacob. And the whole framing device here is the love story, a beautiful love story, and unique to Lost. This one is between Richard and his dead wife, with Hurley being a mediator. My favorite scene? Well, I love the Black Rock crashing to the island, but I think the conversation between Jacob and Ricardo takes the spot for me. It has that religious weight to it, especially since he asks to absolve of his sins or to see his dead wife again, things that Jacob can't do. But the man in black, he can trick you to do both of them, like he did with Echo, but it's still a trick of the devil. Jacob does have the healing touch and gives Ricardo his agelessness. He's already given him something to drink, the wine, once again the blood of Jesus, and the only thing remaining is the blessed touch. This process is something we got a taste of way back in season 2 in SOS, with the faith healer. The power of touch is something that harkens back to other religions and myths. You can read about it in the Gospels of the healing touch of Jesus, but also the opposite way, such as the depictions of the Grim Reaper and the touch of death. Back in the day, we would just watch an orientation film. Now it is through the wine and the touch where we get our answers, where Jacob is giving him a sacrament, which is where a sacred and spiritual power is transmitted through a material element, channeling divine grace and activated through Jacob's touch. We've come a long way since Shannon getting better through a eucalyptus plant, yet the show still has its feet in elements we've seen in season 1, like Ricardo surviving on the island, encountering boars, and being desperate for water. Abaterno is an episode that hits the core of Lost and is truly a cinematic masterpiece. And the first place goes to Exodus. If you combine Exodus Part 1 with Part 2 plus 3, you get the best mix of Lost ever. It's the culmination of everything we've been establishing in Season 1. And you get a better appreciation for it since this is the end of Season 1 and they started out with a pilot that was hurried into production. It became the most expensive ever, told by the studio that they had a failure on their hands, a show that would either be cancelled or maybe make it to episode 13. And not only did they pull it off, they created a worldwide sensation that went from a project so many in the industry disliked or had no hopes of to win the Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series. Just like Abaterno's foot in biblical narrative, Exodus literally takes its name from the Old Testament, the mass departure of the Israelites under the leadership of Moses. It works in several ways, that departure highlighted with the raft, but they don't have to pass the Red Sea. But there are still struggles on the way. All the survivors have to travel to the caves, while in the flashback we get the most important departure of all. How the island through Jacob, which in this case, connecting it with the Old Testament, is like when God was speaking to Moses and asking him to guide the people, make sure that the characters end up on their departure from Sydney to the island. And even though there are no literal Jacob walking around in Sydney making sure they end up on the plane, we instead are communicated figuratively. We have the island being like a force of God, making sure that they end up on the plane. The best example being Hurley's comedic run, where all the world's coincidences don't want him on that flight, yet the island is pushing him in the right direction. The showrunners have mentioned the show as a mosaic, and this is the one that completes the mosaic, the puzzle of the character's time before Flight 815. The next seasons will explore some other backstories, many of the troubled and dark phases of their life, but the time before the flight is completed and so well illustrated, especially in the editing, at the end when they board the plane. There's not a single line of dialogue here, but it is a perfect example of show don't tell. I was so happy that the series finale of Lost in the church did not have the characters talking to each other, except that one line by Locke. You get so much more of what you see, such as Jack hugging Boone because Jack let Boone off the hook and was the last person Boone saw before he died, one who appreciates how much Jack did to save his life. Exodus does it well, like the judgmental look of that guy. After all, this is still 3 years after 9/11. Or Boone and Shannon and that pesky asthma inhaler, or that small look between Locke and Jack, or the comedic thumbs up to Walt. 6 years from now on, both of them will be running the island. I know most people have Through the Looking Glass as their number one, but Exodus also has a more personal connection to me. I used to watch all of season 1 on TV, except for the finale because we were on vacation at that time, so I had to resort to other methods. Therefore, the finale was the only piece of lost content sitting on my computer until the season 1 DVD came out in the fall. And you know how kids tend to watch the same thing over and over and over again? I think I watched Exodus every 2 days the entire summer of 2005. I think it's not an exaggeration to say that I've seen it over 100 times. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. All the other seasons have to carry the weight of more storylines, and sometimes they don't give enough time to everyone. Like John Locke only has 2 scenes in Through the Looking Glass. Both of them are amazing, but Exodus works on a grander scale and includes the extras much better. Like in the group shots or the extra who runs up to Claire after hearing her screams. Details like that matter. For the next seasons we'll explore all the corners of the island, but nothing can beat the mystery and sense of exploration of the island in the first season, before the introduction of the Dharma Initiative, and we didn't even know about the smoke monster yet. The music highlights that exotic exploration. I love when the island felt mysterious and alluring, and there's nothing like it when they go to the Black Rock, where we hear the wildlife on the island and see the contrasted jungle. We get this theme a few times more on the show later on, but the simplistic version is the best in my opinion. They use some locations for the first time, like the Lava Rock area or Capena Falls, and finally the reveal in the jungle. On the production side, it has the best visual effect on the show, combining a model, a blue screen and a real-life construction. Like I said earlier, when Lost does glorious visual effects, they stand out. The monster's appearance was perfect. You have a lot to live up to when you spend a year teasing what it looks like, and when you present it, you engage the audience even more. Everyone became curious about this mysterious black smoke, studying frame by frame. Many times with an unseen antagonist, people are just disappointed because it doesn't match up what they had in their head. But this time it was like the opposite. People got really invested into this unique monster. As for the best scene, well, that's really difficult because this finale is chock full of them. As much as I love the tear-inducing scenes of later seasons or the awakening montages in the end, it's hard to beat scenes like Sawyer telling Jack about Christian Shepherd.
Tells me he wishes he had the stones to pick up the phone, call his kid. Tell him he's sorry. He's a better doctor than he'll ever be. He's proud. He loves him.
That's a top tier scene, and the music is not forcing it up our throats with the Oceanic 6 theme or something like that. It's just a simple dialogue, or the amazing dialogue between Locke and Jack about destiny, which ends up being one of the most important conversations of the entire show. Also another one where Michael Giacchino decides to keep things a little bit simple. That works better.
You think we crashed on this place by coincidence? Especially this place? We were brought here for a purpose, for a reason, all of us. Each one of us was brought here for a reason.
Brought here. And who brought us here, John?
The island. The island brought us here. This is no ordinary place. You've seen that. I know you have. The island chose you too, Jack. It's destiny.
And this conversation gets referenced later again in the show. I also love the cliffhanger at sea. The banter between the characters is so much fun, the lighting is magnificent and highlights how pitch black it is at sea. And then the music comes back, parting words. And the moment the harpist plucks that deep harp note.
Only the thing is, we're gonna have to take the boy.
What'd you say?
It's a terrifying ending, and you wonder what will happen to our heroes who are now lost at sea with a raft that just exploded. And also, people keep bringing up the cliffhanger, but I don't mind it. I love the mystery, the allure of the hatch, and getting inside the hatch now would not fit the narrative because the story has concluded. The whole mission was succeeded from the perspective of the others. They were coming for the boy, and they succeeded. And the shot at the end suggests to the viewer that the main characters will not be able to get everyone down there because it's a long shaft with a broken ladder. You don't need Jack to explain that. So the story is over. There's accomplishments in the finale with the rescue of Aaron and the opening of the hatch, but also failure with the others taking Walt. And it says so much about the show that it ends on a mystery, with the characters looking at something that is completely pitch black and their imaginations must be running wild. There's so many majestic character moments in this finale, and I keep admiring that they created something that truly was a TV sensation worldwide. The best scene might be the raft launch though, which starts from Jin's apology and Sun giving him that list, ending in them setting sail. Everyone is saying goodbye to each other, and it is full of so many little details, like Jin touching Aaron's hand, which brings it back to the pilot when Jin was the first one to feel Aaron's kick, or even him being there at the birth. But the shot also shows us that Handcuff, once belonging to Kate, but has been with him the entire season, or that awkward hug between Michael and Sun, or Sawyer having mixed feelings about what he did to Kate, one who he didn't get to say goodbye to. And in the background you see all the survivors, extras and main characters, all saying goodbye to each other. That's the sense of community that I love about season 1. And Michael Giacchino's parting words elevates this scene so much. It builds up and it builds up, and there's a reason why people still bring this scene up at his concerts. It's one of the best scenes of the entire show. And then Vincent comes up, running up to the raft. It's a triumphant scene, the first one in the show to have a helicopter shot, because it's one of the most cinematic ones in the entire show. Exodus was pretty much the TV moment of 2005. It's the perfect Lost Adventure to me, a perfect ending on a season. And that's my